I shouldn't lie, freshly transported into some ancient Chinese body, skinny as a chopstick, freezing my butt off on a city wall while 100,000 angry Turks tried to kill me. Classic Monday. Let me back up. A few days ago, I woke up in this world, went hunting with some village guys. We were vibing, eating roasted meat, singing songs on the road. Then bam, the government grabbed us like, congratulations, you're soldiers now. No interview. No training. Just, here's a garbage bow and 10 broken arrows. Go defend the empire. Thanks, I hate it. So now I'm in Yunzhou City, the last wall between the Turk army and millions of civilians. We got maybe 10,000 defenders. They got 100,000 cavalry with wolf hunger eyes, already dreaming about our gold and women. Their general was sitting out there in shiny silver armor like he was posing for a magazine cover, saying he'd take this city in 3 days. Cool, cool, cool. Then the arrows came. Holy mother of, it was like the sky turned into a porcupine factory. Guys around me were getting turned into pin cushions left and right. I'm hiding behind the wall shaking like a phone on vibrate, zero armor, wearing basically pajamas in winter. My village buddy Wang Ernyo caught an arrow and died right next to me. His last words? Tell Xiao Chui I'm not a coward. Then he just stopped. I closed his eyes, pulled 3 arrows out of his body. Waste not, want not, right? Sorry, buddy. The arrows stopped. I thought, oh, thank God. Then the war drum started. That's the, we're coming to climb your wall now, music. The Turk officers were screaming stuff like, storm the city, steal their money, take their women, real motivational speech material. Their troops went absolutely feral. 10,000 Turks charging at once. I swear the whole wall was shaking. Some of our guys literally peed themselves and refused to stand up. Then our officers started chopping cowards off the wall. One dude got sliced and fell down, squashing 2 Turks on the way. The officer was not joking. So I grabbed my trash bow with my noodle arms, barely pulled the string halfway, and just lobbed an arrow down. The Turks were packed so tight I couldn't miss if I tried. Some poor guy caught it and dropped dead instantly. Got himself some eternal sleep. And that's when my brain went ding. A whole stat screen popped up in my head like a video game. Body strength jumped from 2 to 10. I got something called innate archer constitution. Suddenly power was flooding through my whole body like someone plugged me into a wall socket. 5 seconds ago, I was a wet noodle. Now I was pulling this bow like it was made of rubber bands. The bow was literally creaking, begging me to stop. I shot again. Full draw this time. The arrow punched through a charging Turk so hard, he stumbled backwards and sat down dead. The arrow was buried in him up to the feathers. Even he looked shocked, eyes wide open like, wait, since when can these guys shoot like that? Then another notification. Experience 1. Proficiency went up. Hold on. Hold on, hold on, hold on. Killing enemies levels me up? I looked down at the 100,000 Turks swarming below the wall, and suddenly they didn't look like an unstoppable army anymore. They looked like XP piñatas. Standing on that wall with my bow, staring at that ocean of heads, I had one thought. I am disgustingly overpowered, and this is going to be beautiful. I was on fire. And not the, oh no, I'm burning, kind. The, I am become death, destroyer of Turks, kind. My arrows were flying left and right. Literally. When my left arm got tired, I switched to my right. When my right got tired, I switched back. I was basically a human turret up there. Every kill, ding. Experience 1. Ding. Experience 1. My brain sounded like a microwave that never stops. I burned through my 10 arrows in minutes. No problem. I grabbed Wang Ernyo's leftover arrows. Sorry, buddy, you don't need them anymore. Within moments, there were over a dozen fresh Turk corpses piled below my section of the wall. Then my archery skill broke through to mastery level. My body stats jumped from 10 to 17. I felt muscles literally inflating on my back like someone was pumping me up with a bicycle pump. My arms, my waist, everything got thick. The bow in my hands now felt like a toy water gun. And the new perk? Within 50 steps, never miss a shot. Never miss? Come on, that's gotta be exaggerated, right? I tested it. Shot a Turk right in the kneecap. OWWW. He screamed and tumbled off the siege ladder. Next arrow, straight into another guy's kidney. You southern dog, he howled, clutching his side. Then I rapid-fired 3 arrows. Bang, bang, bang. All three nailed 3 different Turks right between the eyes. They didn't even have time to look surprised. Okay, so it was not exaggerated. I literally cannot miss. This is disgusting. I love it. My village buddy Sher Kai was next to me, jaw on the floor. Shunlai, since when can you shoot like that? Sher Kai was supposed to be our village's best hunter. Killed a wild boar king solo at 13. Real tough guy? And even he was staring at me like I'd grown a second head. I played it cool. The Turks are packed so tight, it's just luck. Yeah, luck. 3 headshots in a row. Sure. Little Wang Xiaohu, the youngest of us, was fanboying hard. Shunlai bro, you're incredible. Poor kid though. After a few dozen shots his arms were completely cooked. He couldn't even lift them anymore. So he became our arrow delivery boy, running around collecting usable arrows from dead bodies and bringing them back. Teamwork makes the dream work, baby. The 3 of us, me shooting, Sher Kai shooting, Xiaohu fetching, turned our section of the wall into an absolute slaughterhouse. The pile of Turk bodies below us got so big it was actually blocking other Turks from advancing. We built a corpse speed bump. The veteran soldiers nearby were staring at us with their mouths open. These were grizzled border troops, and they were looking at 3 village kids like we were aliens. Even the garrison commander, General Xiang Baichuan, noticed from his tower. Whose officer is that? Why isn't he wearing armor? Sir. He's a conscript. Grabbed off the street 2 days ago. A conscript. Meanwhile, outside the walls, the Turk left king in his fancy silver armor was having a very bad day. He watched me ambidextrously mowing down his elite soldiers like grass. His attack squads were literally routing around my section of wall like it was a no-go zone. He crushed his wine cup into powder with his bare hand. Actual anime villain move. Then he screamed for his best archers to take me out and offered 1,000 silver taels plus a promotion to whoever climbed the wall first. Flattering, honestly. I've been a soldier for like 2 days, and I already have a bounty on my head. Up on the wall, the Turks finally got smart. They started hiding behind their shields, covering their heads. My arrows were accurate, but couldn't punch through solid wood and iron. Fine. Adapt and overcome. I started shooting kneecaps instead. No shield covers your knees when you're climbing a ladder. My knee. Not the knee. I'll kill your whole family, Southern Dog. The Turks below were losing their minds, waving their shields around not knowing whether to protect their heads or their legs. Beautiful chaos. Then, snap. My bowstring exploded. The broken string whipped my arm and left a nasty red welt. The garbage bow finally died from overwork. Xiaohu immediately offered me his little hunting bow, but before I could take it, a deep voice interrupted. Use mine. It was Officer Yan Liang, our unit's centurion, a real warrior, full armor, sword on his hip, total badass energy. He handed me a military-grade lacquered hardwood bow. The good stuff. Officer-tier weaponry. Nice shooting. Keep killing, he said, and walked off. Man, a few words. I respect it. I tested the new bow. Drew it back. 8-force pull. Top-tier military strength. But for me now, easy as stretching a rubber band. This bow actually matched my power instead of being way too weak. I aimed at a Turk hiding behind his shield and let fly. The arrow punched through the shield and drilled straight into his skull. Experience 1. Headshots are back on the menu, boys. I checked my stats. Proficiency climbing steadily. 37, 38. At this rate, I'll break through mastery level soon. I looked down at the endless sea of Turks and grinned. Keep coming. Every single one of you is just walking XP. Okay, so apparently I became a celebrity on the wall. Every soldier in the garrison heard about the God Archer and was staring at me like I was some kind of action movie hero standing dramatically on the battlements. Our guys looked at me and saw hope. The Turks looked up at me and saw their grandma's ghost. They couldn't hit me, couldn't hide from me. After I got that new military bow, even their shields became useless. Their only strategy was, please God, let him shoot someone else. That's not a battle plan. That's a prayer. Morale flipped completely. Our soldiers went from, we're all gonna die, to, let's go. Even the conscripts caught the fever. One random drafted dude picked up a boulder and yeeted it off the wall, flattening 2 Turks at once while screaming what I can only describe as ancient Chinese profanity. I was in the zone. Left shot, right shot, up shot, down shot. Every arrow randomly deleting a Turk from existence. Proficiency climbing, 49. 50. 51. Then the Turk left king got really mad and pulled out his trump card. Dozens of elite Turk archers appeared. These guys were built different. Long arms, tiny waists, muscles on their muscles. They moved up behind a wall of giant shields, and suddenly my section of wall got absolutely showered with precision arrows. A dozen soldiers around me dropped instantly. Oh, so we're doing targeted harassment now. Cool. I ducked behind the wall. Look, I may have a cheat system, but I'm still made of meat. An arrow through my face would end this story real quick. But my comrades weren't so lucky. More and more fell to the elite archer's fire. We'd only known each other a few days, but when you're all about to die together, a few days feels like a lifetime. Watching them go down made my blood boil. The pressure from those elite archers was suffocating. Our return fire weakened. Turks started actually climbing onto the wall. Things were getting bad. I had to do something. So I invented guerrilla archery. Pop up, shoot, duck. Sprint 10 feet. Pop up, shoot, duck. Sprint again. Never in the same spot twice. And here's the beautiful discovery. Killing an elite archer gave me 5 experience points instead of 1. These premium Turks were worth 5 times the XP. My proficiency rocketed. 77, 82, 92, 97. I was picking off elite archers like expensive collectible cards while they couldn't land a single shot on me because I moved faster than their targeting speed. Then it happened. Proficiency maxed out. Breakthrough. Body stats, 1724. Skill level, minor achievement. New abilities unlocked. 2-stone bow strength. Triple shot in an instant. 100-step perfect accuracy. My body upgraded again. I clenched my fist and my knuckles crackled like popcorn. I stepped forward and the stone brick under my foot literally crumbled. I looked at my military bow and sighed. It felt like holding a toothpick now. Triple shot though. Let me test that. I drew and released. 3 arrows flew out so fast they were practically simultaneous. 3 elite Turk archers, all mid-aim, all caught arrows with their foreheads at the exact same time. Experience 15. The remaining Turk archers collectively decided, absolutely not, and dove back behind their shield wall. Smart move. Should have done that earlier. With triple shot plus perfect accuracy, my kill zone was absurd. I was suppressing elite archers and mowing down regular infantry and keeping Turks from climbing the walls, all at the same time. I was a one-man air defense system, but I was still just one guy, and Turks were still flooding the walls in other spots. Over a dozen had already made it to the top. The city was still in serious danger. Then, a sound that made my blood freeze. A different kind of arrow. Faster. Meaner. The air practically screamed. A Turk master archer had taken a sneak shot at me. No time to dodge. Pure instinct kicked in. I fired without aiming and somehow knocked his arrow out of the air. Arrow-on-arrow interception. Apparently that's a thing only the absolute top-tier Turk sharpshooters can do, and I just casually did it on reflex. My hands were shaking afterward, though. 1 second slower, and I'd have a new face piercing. But hey, new technique learned. I started using triple shot to simultaneously block incoming arrows and counterattack. Deflect, deflect, kill. Deflect, kill, kill. The duel was savage. Dozens more of our wall defenders fell. But I was carving through their elite archers too. Took out over half of them. The Turk left king was reportedly screaming curse words so hard his veins were popping. I was riding high. Untouchable. Unstoppable. Then another sneak arrow came. I swatted it away without even thinking. But right behind it, a second arrow, hidden in the first one's shadow. Oh no. The arrow was already filling my entire vision. The metal tip gleaming, getting bigger and bigger, wham. Something slammed into me from the side. I hit the ground. Looked up. Shirkai, my village brother. He'd shoved me out of the way. He was lying on the ground with an arrow sticking out of him. Things were getting spicy, and not in a good way. The Turk elite archers had me pinned down like a game of whack-a-mole. Except if the mole gets whacked, he dies. Every time I popped up, dozens of arrows came flying at my face. And somewhere out there, hiding behind a giant shield like a coward, was the Turk master archer waiting to double-tap me with his signature move, 2 arrows disguised as one sound. So I adapted. Crouch, sprint, pop up, triple shot, duck, repeat. I was basically speedrunning a cover shooter with my actual life. The wall was turning into a meat grinder on both sides. Our defenders kept dropping. Their elite archers kept dropping. It was like the world's worst trade deal, and everyone was losing. Then I spotted him, the master archer. Just a glimpse between the shields. He was already aiming at me. He fired his double arrow combo again. 2 arrows, 1 sound, pure evil. I didn't flinch. 3 arrows out, clang clang, knocked both his arrows out of the sky. My third shot killed his shield guy instead. Close enough. We went back and forth like the deadliest tennis match in history. I picked off his shield bodyguards one by one. He grazed me a few times. Nothing deep, but enough to remind me I'm not playing a video game. Well, technically I am, but my health bar is very much real. Meanwhile, Turks were flooding onto the wall like ants at a picnic. The left king was screaming, "Kill that guy! 1,000 heads of cattle to whoever does it!" Apparently, I now had a livestock bounty. Moo. I fell back to Shirkai and Xiaohu's position. Little Xiaohu had picked up a sword and was standing guard over wounded Shirkai like a tiny angry puppy protecting its owner. I kept dueling the master archer. Killed every single one of his shield guards. One more shot, and he was done. I reached for an arrow. Empty. My quiver was empty. The ground around me, picked clean. Not a single usable arrow anywhere. And across the battlefield, the master archer was drawing his last arrow too. This was it. A showdown with no ammo. Then Shirkai, wounded, pale, barely conscious Shirkai, grabbed the arrow still stuck in his own shoulder and ripped it out. "Take it," he yelled, shoving the bloody arrow into my hand. I didn't have time to think about how metal that was. I grabbed the blood-soaked arrow, knocked it, drew the string to absolute maximum. The arrow screamed through the air and punched clean through the master archer's chest, pinning him to the ground like a bug on a board. 1 shot. 1 kill. Using an arrow my friend pulled out of his own body. If that's not the hardest thing that's ever happened in a war, I don't know what is. Experience. 50. 50. 1 regular Turk was worth 1 point. 1 elite was worth 5. This guy was worth 50. I basically killed a raid boss. Proficiency jumped to 379 out of 1,000. Massive leap. After that, the general's personal guards charged in for close combat. Backup troops arrived, and they mopped up the Turks who'd made it onto the wall. The sun bled into the horizon, night fell, and the Turk-left king had no choice but to sound the retreat. Day 1, survived, but everyone knew tomorrow would be worse. That night, the 3 of us, me, Shirkai, and Xiaohu, collapsed in the barracks. "You owe me a life now, punk." Shirkai grinned at me. Why does a ghost from blood loss, but still talking trash? Hard to argue with the guy who literally pulled an arrow out of himself to save you. Then Officer Yanliang walked in. He looked at my cuts, looked at Shirkai's mummy-wrapped shoulder, and pulled out a bottle of premium wound medicine. The good stuff. Not the, rub some dirt on it, army standard. "Where are you boys from?" he asked. "Qingxi village, all 3 of us." His eyes lit up. "Qingxi hunters. Famous across Yunzhou. Apparently, our little mountain village was known for producing insane archers because everyone grew up hunting boars and bears for fun. We were basically the hillbilly special forces." Then he asked, "So, you were conscripted?" We all nodded like sad bobbleheads. He laughed. Then he dropped the bomb. "How about you stay in the army officially? I'm making you a squad leader." Squad leader? That's command over 12 men. 2 corporals under me. I went from expendable meat shield to actual officer in 1 day. Shirkai and Xiaohu were vibrating with excitement behind me. I said yes before my brain even finished processing. "Pick your 2 corporals," Yanliang said, glancing at my boys. Fist bump from Shirkai and Xiaohu. The village trio was now officially a command unit. "Your kills today deserved a centurion rank," Yanliang added. "But that requires approval from above, and you need to be a certified martial artist." A martial artist? Like cultivator stuff? Inner power? Kung fu magic? He pulled out a thin, yellowed booklet and handed it to me. "This is a beginner's martial arts cultivation manual." I looked at the faded cover and read the title aloud. "The 100 Refinements Technique?" Oh boy. Archery god and magic kung fu powers. This is getting ridiculous, and I am here for it. So Yanliang handed me this little yellow booklet, "The 100 Refinements Technique," and started explaining martial arts like a college professor. Turns out, in this world there's a massive gap between regular people and martial artists. We're talking normal humans versus basically superheroes. Even the lowest level martial artist can fight 10 or 100 regular soldiers. The martial arts system has 9 levels split into 3 tiers, and Yin Liang himself was only at the bottom tier, martial apprentice, minor achievement, and his body stat was already 37. That's 13 points higher than MY system enhanced body. This dude could arm wrestle a horse and win. Oh, and fun fact, today's attack was apparently just the Turks testing US. They sent regular soldiers only. Tomorrow, they're bringing their own martial artists. Thousands of them. We are so cooked. But hey, at least my system recognized the booklet. The moment I opened it, technique, 100 refinements, not yet learned, proficiency, 1/100th martial arts works with my proficiency system too. Except, it needs 100 points just to get started. That's 10 times what basic archery needed. Martial arts difficulty is no joke. While I was reading, Xiaohu stuck his nose over my shoulder. Let me see too, Shun Lai bro. Shirkai, lying on his sick bed like a mummy, roasted him instantly. You can't even read, idiot. It's got pictures. I can look at pictures, can I? Humph, Xiaohu stuck his tongue out. You little brat, your skin's itching for a beating. Nye nye nye. Xiaohu was fearless because Shirkai literally couldn't get up to chase him. These are my corporals, everyone. The pride of Qingxi village. Yin Liang watched us like a tired dad, then got serious. Don't think you can cram this overnight. Martial arts takes years of training, expensive medicines, and bone-grinding effort. Keep the book. If we survive, you'll have time to study it properly. Xiaohu got quiet and asked the question we were all thinking. Sir, can we actually hold the city? Yin Liang gave us the most soldier answer possible. Don't ask if we can. Ask if we should. Your homes are right behind this wall. Your families. You fight for them. Xiaohu nodded hard. Even I felt that one. Before leaving, Yin Liang told us to grab armor from the supply depot tomorrow. Finally, no more fighting in pajamas. Oh, sir, I called after him. Can you find me another bow? He looked confused. What happened to the one I gave you? Don't tell me you broke it already. No, it's fine. It's just a little light. Silence. That 8-force military bow, the one elite soldiers fought over, the premium top-shelf hardware, was a little light for me. Yin Liang's face was priceless. What kind of bow do you want then? A 2-stone bow, sir. Dead silence. Xiaohu didn't really understand the measurement, but his brain did the math another way. He thought about the donkey back home that pulled several stone of grain. Shun Lai bro, you're literally a beast, he whispered in awe. Yin Liang stared at me like I'd asked for a nuclear weapon. You're joking. No normal human can draw a 2-stone bow. Only martial artists who channel their chi and blood can do that. Unless you have supernatural strength. Well, funny you should mention that, SIR. Obviously, I couldn't explain the system, so I just kept a straight face. I'm not joking, sir. Military rules. No jokes. He squinted at me for a long moment, then finally nodded. I'll see what I can do. After he left, Shirkai and Xiaohu immediately bombarded me with questions. How are you this strong? What's your secret? I deployed my most advanced skill, bullcrap artistry, Grandmaster level, and somehow talked my way out of it. The 3 of us spent the rest of the night studying the 100 Refinements booklet by candlelight. 3 village boys hunched over a martial arts manual like nerds cramming for finals. Except the test tomorrow was, don't die. Next morning, Yinzhou city walls. Cold wind howling. Horses everywhere. The Turk army slithered out of their camps like one massive snake and lined up below the city. Yesterday, they lost 5,000 men. We lost over 1,000, including soldiers and conscripts. Today, the left king ordered the city taken in 3 days. Anyone who retreats gets executed. And today, they were bringing martial artists. At least 1,000 of them, out of their 100,000-man army. Every defender on the wall was gripping their weapon so hard their knuckles turned white. Shirkai was still recovering in the barracks, so it was just me and Xiaohu on the wall. But we looked good now, full border army heavy armor. I went from skinny refugee to, that dude looks like a general, big back, thick arms, gleaming plates. I was basically cosplaying as a boss character. Yin Liang assigned me 10 new conscripts, all from villages near Qingxi. We bonded fast. I couldn't help wishing they were all Qingxi hunters though. Imagine me leading a squad of elite village archers. The Turks would need therapy. He also brought me a new bow, a 1-stone oxhorn bow, borrowed from the garrison commander's personal collection. A family heirloom. Very generous. Still too light for me though. I can pull 2 stone. This was like giving Superman a bicycle. But beggars can't be choosers. I tested the draw, Adjusted my grip. Boom, 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 boom. War drums. The ground shook. Day 2 had begun. Day 2. Drums going boom, boom, boom. Turks attacking again. And guess what? Yesterday I was a shivering newbie hiding behind a wall, and today I'm commanding 10 guys. Life comes at you fast in ancient China. Yin Liang dumped another batch of freshly grabbed conscripts on me. 10 terrified farmers who'd never held anything sharper than a hoe. Their body stats? 3 to 4 points each. I looked at them trembling and thought, buddy, that was literally me 24 hours ago. Meanwhile, Xiaohu, my 14-year-old corporal, was lecturing a bunch of grown men twice his age on how to not die. Uncle Li, Uncle Neo, the Turks always shoot arrows first then attack. Squat behind the wall, put your shield on your head, and for the love of everything holy, do not stand up during the arrow rain. Picture this, a kid built like a baby bull, wearing shiny officer armor, bossing around 10 middle-aged farmers. The veteran soldiers nearby were watching and trying not to laugh. For a brief moment, everyone forgot we were all probably going to die today. The conscripts didn't dare disrespect Xiaohu though. He looked like a tiny war god in that armor. As long as he kept his mouth shut, you'd think he was a seasoned warrior. Then, 3 drum beats from the Turks' side. I recognized that sound immediately. Arrow rain incoming. Get down. Shields up, I screamed. My 10 guys dropped like rocks. Good boys. But across the wall, dozens of brand new conscripts who arrived this morning were still standing around gawking at the Turk army like tourists at a zoo. Then 10,000 Turk archers fired at once. The sky went dark. Those clueless conscripts turned into pincushions before they even understood what was happening. It was horrible. By the time you see the arrows, it's already too late, Xiaohu yelled from under his shield. The farmers next to him were shaking so hard they looked like human vibrators. The noise was insane. Thousands of arrows hammering into stone and metal. It sounded like being inside a drum during a hailstorm. The shields were getting so heavy from all the arrows sticking into them that the conscripts' arms started giving out. I saw their shields slipping. If those dropped, they were dead. Don't let go. I roared so loud that everyone within 50 feet jolted like they'd been electrocuted. It worked. The farmers found strength they didn't know they had and pushed those shields back up, holding on for dear life. Screams everywhere. Even experienced veterans were getting hit. The new conscripts without guidance? Wiped out. They didn't even know what killed them. Hang on, it's almost over, Xiaohu shouted. And then, silence. The arrow rain stopped. The world went quiet. My guys lowered their shields and stared. Every shield looked like a metal hedgehog, absolutely covered in arrows. Holy moly, if those went into me instead of this shield, I definitely wouldn't be eating next year's wheat harvest, one farmer stammered. You know what? None of my 10 guys got hurt. Not one. Across the entire wall, we were the only squad with 0 casualties. They all thought it was divine protection. Guardian angels. Ancestor blessings. Nah fam, it was something better. See, when Yin Liang promoted me to squad leader yesterday, my system unlocked a brand new skill tree. Talent, troop command, beginner, proficiency, 37 300ths effect. Orders are executed perfectly. Massively accelerates soldier growth. I also got a new stat, leadership, jumped from 1 to 10. Orders executed perfectly means when I yell, shields up, these farmers don't hesitate, don't question, don't freeze. They just do it. Instantly. Like trained soldiers. That's why they survived and everyone else didn't. And the growth acceleration? That means I can turn these potato farmers into real warriors at warp speed. In a siege where we're bleeding troops every hour, that's basically a cheat code for army building. Though I noticed troop command needs 300 proficiency just for the first level. 3 times harder than martial arts. Leading people is apparently the hardest skill of all. Sounds about right. But here's where it gets really interesting. My system let me inspect my squad members' stats now. So naturally, I checked Xiaohu first. Wang Xiaohu position, corporal leadership, 05 body, 1112 talent, charge into battle, genius level cavalry commander excuse me? This snot-nosed kid who sticks his tongue out at injured friends is a genius cavalry commander? A prodigy meant to lead horseback charges across open battlefields? Too bad we don't have any horses. We don't even have a donkey. But someday, when we push back against these Turks, when we take the fight to their endless deserts and grasslands, this little punk is going to be an absolute monster on horseback. Filing that away for later. 3 more drum beats. The farmers froze mid-arrow collecting and all turned to look at me like baby ducks looking at their mama. Keep picking up arrows. Get as many as you can, I ordered. They snapped back into action immediately. Gotta love that. Perfect obedience, perk. Within minutes, neat stacks of arrows were piled up next to me like an all-you-can-shoot buffet. The drums stopped. The Turk infantry started charging. I gripped my oxhorn bow, still too light for me, like swinging a wiffle bat when you want a sledgehammer, and looked down at the tsunami of Turks pouring toward the wall. Round 2. Let's go. Round 2 started, and I was already a legend. Not bragging. The Turks were literally telling scary stories about me around their campfires. Apparently hundreds of guys with destroyed kneecaps getting carried back to camp on stretchers made quite an impression. Every single Turk climbing toward our wall today had their shield glued to their face, terrified that the great Xia god archer would pick them off. Flattering. Truly. The officers screamed for everyone to fire back, rainstones down, give them everything. All the defenders started blasting. But I held my fist up. Wait, my 10 farmer soldiers froze. They wanted to shoot, everyone else was shooting, but nobody questioned me. That perfect obedience perk is chef's kiss. I watched the Turks approach. 90 steps, 80 steps, 70. At 50 steps, my guaranteed kill zone, I slammed my fist down. Now, 10 farmers pulled their bows. Now, these guys had never shot anything except maybe a disappointing look at their crops. Their aim was absolutely tragic. But when the enemy is packed shoulder to shoulder like sardines, even a blind grandma can score kills. Sure enough, random wobbly arrows somehow found targets. A few Turks dropped, and my troop command proficiency ticked up. 37, 38, 41. Turns out my soldiers' kills count toward MY leadership experience. I'm literally farming XP through other people. This is called delegation, baby. Then my proficiency started jumping even faster, and I turned around to see why. Xiaohu was going berserk. That kid was firing arrows like a machine gun, eyes blazing with pure combat excitement. Yesterday's scared boy was gone. Today he was a tiny murder gremlin who had discovered he liked war. Every few seconds another Turk dropped. The kid was genuinely terrifying. But 90,000 Turks don't care about one angry child. They pushed through our arrows and stones like walking through rain and slammed their ladders against the wall. Hundreds of ladders. Everywhere. So I got creative. My bow was only 1 stone strength, but I could pull 2 stone. It felt like a toy. So I thought, what if I knock 3 arrows at once? I loaded 3 arrows, drew back, and fired. The triple arrow bundle hit the first Turk on the ladder with so much force it blasted him backward into every guy behind him like a bowling strike. An entire ladder's worth of soldiers tumbled off the wall and turned into sidewalk art. The Turks on the next ladder over didn't even see what happened. They just suddenly got knocked off too from the shockwave. 3 arrows, 1 shot, like 8 kills. Efficiency king. I kept shooting. 3 arrows at a time, ladder after ladder. Turks were raining off the walls like it was a waterfall of screaming men. My archery proficiency climbed past 392. The left king's face was reportedly turning the color of a bruise. He sent for someone called Huardu. The dude who showed up was basically a building. Nearly 10 feet tall, wearing heavy iron armor, carrying a spiked club that weighed several hundred pounds. The left king pointed at my section of wall and told him to bring back my head. Cool. That's fine. Everything's fine. But before that monster reached me, something worse happened. The ground started shaking. I looked out and saw shapes emerging from the Turk formation, massive wooden structures rolling forward. Siege towers. Over 100 of them. Each one as tall as our wall, covered in thick animal hide that arrows couldn't penetrate. These were originally built to attack the capital city. The fact that they were using them here on Little Yunzhou meant we'd been hurting them badly enough to force out their big guns. I shot at one. My arrow punched through the hide. I could kill guys inside, but I couldn't stop the tower itself. It was like trying to stop a truck by throwing rocks at the driver. We all watched helplessly as the siege towers crept closer. 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 Boom. The first tower dropped its bridge onto our wall. The impact crushed several defenders who couldn't dodge in time. And then Turks flooded out like a broken dam. There were so many packed inside those things. It was like a clown car except instead of clowns it was angry warriors with swords. How many people did they fit in there? Boom, boom, boom. More towers connected. More bridges dropped. The entire wall turned into close combat hell. Then one landed right in front of MY section. Bridge dropped. Turk soldiers poured out. Deep-set eyes, sharp noses, steel swords, wooden shields, and the overwhelming smell of mutton hitting me in the face like a physical force. They were close enough to touch. So much for archery. Time for a knife fight. The siege towers opened up and Turks poured onto the wall like an angry flood. Every defender dropped their bows and pulled out swords. It was chaos. Then one of my farmers saw a Turk up close for the first time. Ghost. It's a ghost. Look, Turks and Xia people look very different. These guys had deep-set eyes, huge noses, brownish hair, and were built like refrigerators. My farmers had literally never seen a foreigner in their entire lives. They genuinely thought demons had invaded. Hold formation, I screamed, and my command aura snapped them out of their panic like a slap to the face. Xiaohu instantly took charge of the front line. Shield guys on me. He grabbed 5 farmers with big shields and pushed them to the front. Behind them, 5 guys with long spears waited to stab through the gaps. And behind everyone, me, with my bow, doing what I do best. The plan was beautiful. Shields block, spears poke. I shoot over everyone's heads. A perfect little murder sandwich. Xiaohu roared, shields up, and the 5 farmers crashed into the incoming Turks. Boom. OWWW. One hit, and my farmers almost disintegrated. These Turk soldiers grew up eating beef and drinking horse milk on the open grasslands. They were a full head taller than my guys and built like oxen. My poor farmers felt like their skeletons were trying to leave their bodies. The Turks grinned and started hacking at the shields with curved swords. My front line was buckling, about to collapse. First contact, and we were already getting crushed. Then Xiaohu lost his temper. You Turk bastards! This tiny teenage psychopath smashed his shield into a Turk's face so hard the guy staggered, then followed up with his saber and dropped him. Blood splattered all over Xiaohu's armor and face. Did he flinch? No. He just screamed louder. Push forward. Not one step back. The farmers saw their baby-faced commander covered in enemy blood, still fighting like a demon, and something clicked. They found strength from somewhere, probably pure shame that a kid half their age was braver than them, and pushed. They actually shoved the Turks back half a step. Spears. Stab, Xiaohu ordered. 5 spears thrust through the shield gaps at the stumbling Turks, and missed, or bounced off, or poked harmlessly. These farmers had zero combat skill. They'd been holding farming tools their whole lives. Their spears had the lethality of wet noodles. The window closed. The Turks recovered and slammed back into us hard, pushing our whole formation back several steps. More Turks flooded through the gap onto the wall. My 2 neat rows got compressed into one messy blob. Guys were screaming, I can't hold. I'm gonna collapse. Even Xiaohu was getting sandwiched so tight, he couldn't swing his arms. The Turks smelled blood. Back rows pushed front rows. They were going to steamroll us into paste. That's when I went to work. An arrow whistled past my farmers' ears, so close they felt the cold breeze on their skin, and drilled straight through a Turk's left eye. But it didn't stop there. It punched out the back of his skull and embedded itself in the Turk behind him. 2 kills. 1 arrow. Through the eye. Before anyone could process that, more arrows screamed past. Wind ripping over scalps, shaving distance measured in centimeters. My farmers were terrified, but not one of them got touched. Every single arrow threaded through the gaps between my own guys and buried itself in a Turk. I was shooting through a crowd of friendlies like threading needles at machine gun speed. Turks started falling in rows. The ones who'd been pressing forward so aggressively now had loose, scattered formations, perfect targets. My 1-stone bow was doing maximum damage at this range. It's the God Archer, one Turk screamed. Instant PTSD from yesterday. Their morale cracked like an egg. Push them back, I commanded. Xiaohu seized the moment. While the Turks were panicking, he led the shield wall forward. 1 step, 2 steps, 3. The Turks tripped over each other trying to retreat. Front guys stepping on back guys' feet. Mini stampede. The spear guys thrust through the gaps again, and this time, SQELCH. Squelch. Squelch. Wait, they were actually hitting now? My troop command proficiency was climbing fast. 45. 46. 57. Then the notification I'd been waiting for. 5 conscripts upgraded to basic shield soldiers. 5 conscripts upgraded to basic spearmen. My growth acceleration perk was working. These farmers were leveling up in real time during combat. The shield guys figured out how to brace their bodies into triangles. Proper physics, weight distributed through their legs, so even the massive Turks couldn't bulldoze them. It wasn't brute strength, it was technique, and they learned it in minutes instead of months. The spearmen started reading the battle flow. Wait for the shield guys to knock someone off balance, then thrust. Timing. Precision. They went from blindly poking to calculated killing in the span of one fight. Their body stats were exploding upward. All 10 hit 6 points, normal border soldier level. 2 of the shield guys reached 7. These men were farmers this morning. They came to this wall holding shields like dinner plates and spears like broomsticks. Now they were functioning soldiers who could hold a line against Turk warriors. My system didn't just make me overpowered, it turned everyone around me into fast learners. I wasn't just a one-man army anymore. I was a one-man army factory. My little squad was performing beautifully. The farmers had leveled up to actual soldiers, and our formation was working like a well-oiled killing machine. Xiaohu ran the shield wall up front, spearmen poked from behind, and I rained arrows over everyone's heads. We had a growing mountain of Turk corpses around us like a disgusting fort, but everywhere else on the wall. Total disaster. The rest of the defenders got overwhelmed. Formations shattered. It turned into a massive brawl, and in a one-on-one fight, these beef-fed grassland warriors absolutely bodied our guys. Turks started taking over huge sections of the wall. Then they surrounded us. Front, left, right, Turks everywhere. My squad got squeezed tighter and tighter until the guys were practically back-to-back. Even with triple shot, I couldn't kill them fast enough. It was like trying to empty the ocean with a cup. The Turk left king's bounty on my head, 10,000 silver, plus a promotion, had every Turk looking at me with hungry green eyes like I was a walking lottery ticket. Xiaohu was still fighting like a maniac, bless his psychotic little heart. The farmers hadn't broken yet, but they were right on the edge. One more push, and we'd crumble. The Turks closed in until I could count individual nose hairs on their faces. They were about to rush us all at once when I did something nobody expected. I threw my bow on the ground. Every Turk froze. Confused faces everywhere. One of them started laughing. The southern dog is surrendering. Ha ha! His laugh was so ugly it physically hurt my ears. I picked my bow back up and shot him clean through the chest. Shut up, I said. Then I dropped the bow for real and picked up a dead guy's sword. Tested the weight. Not enough. Picked up a second sword. Dual wielding. Why not? I've got 24 body stat points. These swords feel like chopsticks. I swung them experimentally. The air around me screamed. Cold light from the blades reflected in dozens of terrified brown eyes. Then I launched myself out of the formation and straight into the Turk mob. With 24 body points, top-tier armor, and 2 swords, I was a human blender. A steel tornado. A medieval food processor set to puree. Left sword came down, split a Turk in half. Top to bottom. 2 pieces. Like firewood. Right sword went sideways. Cut 3 guys at the waist before they even registered I was there. Blood was literally dancing in the air. Turks fell like wheat at harvest time. Except wheat doesn't scream. Talent, swordsmanship, mastery, proficiency, 57 to 200 effect, cleave through flesh, spin like the wind. My blade skill jumped straight past beginner to mastery almost instantly. No fancy techniques, no martial arts forms, just raw caveman violence. Chop, hack, slash, cut. Pure power, zero elegance. Every swing was a killing blow because when you hit someone with the force of a small car, technique is optional. Hit their armor? Doesn't matter. The impact alone sent them flying. Hit actual flesh? Let's just say, things came apart. Xiaohu watched from behind the shield wall with literal stars in his eyes. Shunlai Bro's sword dancing is so pretty. Like a spinning top. Pretty? I'm butchering people, kid. That's what you're taking away from this. The surrounding Turks broke and scattered. My squad could finally breathe. But it wasn't just us rallying. Suddenly screams erupted all over the wall. The Xiao martial artists had entered the fight. Officer Yin Liang appeared wielding twin hammers that each weighed over 100 pounds. 100-pound hammers. He swung them like tennis rackets, and every hit sent clusters of Turks flying off the wall like ragdolls. The wind from his swings alone was terrifying. Other martial artists were punching through armor, palm-striking guys into the next life, moving through crowds of Turks like hot knives through butter. Each one was fighting 100 enemies simultaneously. Seeing them in action, I finally understood the gap. Regular soldiers versus martial artists wasn't a contest. It was a different species. The rest of the army literally stopped fighting because the martial artists were killing so fast there was nothing left to fight. Turks were running. Our guys were cheering. The tide had turned. Then the wall underneath me shook. I spun around. Something had jumped down from a siege tower onto the wall. Something that made the stones crack under its weight. It was the biggest human being I had ever seen. Almost 10 feet tall, covered head to toe in heavy iron plate armor, holding a spiked club that looked like it weighed as much as a small horse. And swirling around his body, a faint glow of chi and blood energy. My stomach dropped through the floor. That's a Turk martial artist. And not just any martial artist. This monster was at the peak of the martial apprentice realm. The same tier as Yan Liang, but at the absolute maximum level. He was staring directly at me. Oh boy. Right when our martial artists started cleaning house, the Turks unleashed theirs. And the one coming for me. His name was Huadu, and he was basically a final boss who wandered into my tutorial level. 10 feet tall, iron armor head to toe, carrying a spiked club that weighed more than my entire squad combined. The Left King sent him specifically to collect my head, which is a sentence I never thought I'd say about my life. He spotted me instantly. Started charging. Formation, Xiaohu screamed. My brave little farmers snapped into position, shields front, spears back. Beautiful. Textbook. Huadu didn't even look at them. One casual swing of his club, boom, 3 shield guys got pancaked. Shields, armor, bones, everything, just flat. Then he body-checked Xiaohu and the rest of the squad with his armored torso and sent them flying several meters through the air like bowling pins. Everyone hit the ground unconscious. XIOHU. My entire squad. The formation that held back waves of Turks. Dissolved in 2 moves. 1 swing. 1 shoulder bump. That's it. Game over for 12 people. Now it was just me and Mount Everest in armor. He charged. The ground literally shook with every step. Like a mad bull in a tin suit. The pressure was worse than the first day's arrow storm. At least arrows don't have angry eyes. Boom. His club hit the ground where I'd been standing half a second earlier. The stone cratered. An actual hole in the wall. I dodged by pure miracle, but the flying debris smashed into me and scrambled my insides. What the hell is this thing? I yelled, which wasn't my most tactical moment. I checked his stats. Martial Apprentice, Peak Realm. Body stat, 44. That's 20 points higher than me. Yan Liang was the same tier, but 2 levels below this guy. Huadu was half a step from breaking through to the next major realm entirely. He missed his first shot and looked mildly surprised, like a cat whose mouse dodged once. Then he casually cracked his neck, twirled his 1,000-pound club like a baton, and strolled toward me. A literal tornado of wind followed his practice swings. His shadow swallowed me whole. I gripped my dual swords. My back was soaked. My palms were dripping. My heartbeat was in my throat. Boom! His club smashed a pillar behind me as I backpedaled. Before I could plant my feet, he followed up with an overhead slam aimed at the top of my skull. Faster. Harder. Almost impossible to dodge. I threw myself sideways. The club missed my nose by the width of a hair. Another crater. I could feel the wind from the impact push my hair back. If that connects even once, I'm restarting life from the character creation screen. Some random Turks tried to jump me from behind. I killed them with 1 backhand slash without even looking. Honestly, they were a relief compared to the walking earthquake in front of me. Haha. Southern flea, Huadu sneered. He was right though. I was a flea. All I could do was dodge. My 24 body stat versus his 44 meant I couldn't even think about attacking. Just dodging was using 100% of my energy. I tried blocking once with my dual swords. The instant they touched his club, snap snap, both blades shattered like glass. My arms went completely numb. Couldn't lift them for several seconds. So this is a martial artist. Cool. Great. Wonderful. I hate it. My sword proficiency was rocketing from all this near-death action, 98 out of 200. But what good is sword skill when I have no swords? I had 0 weapons, 0 options, and 0 chance. So I did the only thing I could. I rolled. Like a Dark Souls character. Dodge roll. Dodge roll. Another dodge roll. Just a grown man in armor somersaulting across a medieval wall while a giant tried to smash him flat. Ha! Yes. Keep rolling, little worm. Huidu was laughing at me, having the time of his life. Humiliating? Absolutely. But alive is alive. Then something popped up in my brain that changed everything. Technique. 100 refinements. Not yet learned. Proficiency. 7/100ths weight. It went up? It was stuck at 1 since last night. I hadn't trained it at all. I thought back. It didn't go up when I was fighting regular Turks. Only now against the martial artist. Another dodge roll. Another near-death miss. Proficiency. 13/100. It's going up because I'm fighting a martial artist. Being near death against someone with chi energy was teaching me martial arts by osmosis. Every time his chi-powered attacks came close, my body was absorbing something. Learning. Adapting. Suddenly, this wasn't a hopeless fight anymore. This was a training session. A terrifying, potentially fatal, extremely painful training session where the teacher was trying to murder me, but still, I just needed to survive long enough. Dodge. Roll. 21/100. Duck. Slide. 29/100. 10 more exchanges of pure survival. I was covered in scrapes, bruises, and stone dust, but my proficiency kept climbing. And then, I noticed something shift in my gut. A warmth. A tiny flicker. Huidu paused, confused. The panicked little worm he'd been chasing was suddenly smiling. I looked at him and did the universal, "Come here," finger gesture. His face turned purple with rage. "You little cockroach." He went absolutely berserk. His club was a blur. The wall was getting demolished around us. Craters everywhere. But I was watching one thing and one thing only. Proficiency. 89/100. Almost there. Almost there. My body was screaming. My lungs were on fire. Every muscle was begging me to collapse. But that number kept climbing. Just a little more. Just a little more. The whole wall had turned into a martial arts tournament from hell. Turk warriors versus Xiao warriors, everywhere you looked. Yin Liang was out there swinging his twin hammers, smashing through lower-level Turk fighters like watermelons. But then a stronger one locked onto him, and suddenly, he was the one struggling. Everyone was fighting someone above or below their weight class, and nobody could help anybody else. Which meant nobody was coming to save me from the 10-foot refrigerator trying to flatten me with a telephone pole covered in spikes. Huidu kept smashing craters into the wall. The ground beneath us looked like the moon's surface. Every impact sent shockwaves through my legs. Meanwhile, I was burning through swords like disposable chopsticks. Every time I blocked, the blade snapped, and I had to grab another one off the ground. But something funny was happening. The more I dodged, the better I got at dodging. This guy was a power fighter. Heavy armor, heavy weapon, heavy everything. After swinging that monster club dozens of times, even a peak-level martial artist gets tired. His attacks were slowing down. Just slightly. But enough. I actually started feeling confident. Not, I can win, confident. More like, I might not die, confident. Which honestly felt like winning at this point. The real problem was time. Turks were still flooding the wall. The city was losing ground by the minute. And somewhere behind me, Xiaohu was unconscious on the stone. My future genius cavalry commander crumpled like a rag doll. "Kid, you better not die on me." Huidu caught his breath and came again. That massive club screamed through the air toward my skull. But this time I didn't just dodge sideways. I slipped under his arm, sliding through the gap beneath his armpit like a cat through a fence. While passing, I slashed his side with everything I had. Clang. My sword bounced off his armor and left a tiny white scratch. That's it. A scratch. Like drawing on concrete with chalk. Martial artists and their stupid copper iron bodies. Without chi powering my strikes, I couldn't even dent this walking tank. My sword proficiency was climbing fast though, 157 out of 200. Fighting someone this far above my level was like drinking experience from a fire hose. Huidu snorted. He literally felt nothing. My best attack was a mosquito bite to him. He spun around and shattered both my swords again with one swing. The impact traveled up my arms and made them go completely dead. Blood leaked from the corner of my mouth. He saw me struggling and grinned. He thought I was finished. Out of gas. Done. Then I smiled at him. His grin faded. Why was the mouse smiling at the cat? I spat blood, cracked my knuckles, every joint popping like firecrackers. and checked the 2 notifications blinking in my brain. Talent, swordsmanship, minor achievement. Proficiency 12 out of 2000. New effect, cut through armor like butter. Technique, 100 refinements, learned. Proficiency 27 out of 1000. Effect, body like iron, skin like bronze. Both broke through at the same time. What happened next is hard to describe. Imagine someone poured molten metal through every vein in your body. Every muscle fiber, every tendon, every bone got blasted with impossible heat, burning away all the weakness, all the softness, all the human fragility. It hurt like being reforged on an anvil. Then the heat became power, pure, raw, volcanic power rushing from my feet to the crown of my skull. I felt like I could poke a finger through his armor like it was wet paper. So this is Qi. This is what martial artists feel. A visible aura of blood energy wrapped around my body. Huidu's eyes went wide as dinner plates. 5 seconds ago, I had 0 Qi. Now I was radiating it like a bonfire. Across the battlefield, Yin Liang caught a glimpse mid-fight and nearly got his head taken off from distraction. I gave him that cultivation manual last night. One night, and this kid broke through to martial artist? His brain probably short-circuited. My stats told the full story. Body went from 24 to 49. Leadership jumped to 27. I was now a martial apprentice, initial stage. Still technically several levels below Huidu, but the gap had gone from ant versus boot to underdog versus favorite. And my new defensive perk meant regular swords and spears literally couldn't scratch me anymore. I was bulletproof against normal soldiers. Huidu recovered his composure fast. He's still stronger, he told himself. Several levels higher. This punk is just a baby martial artist. He gripped his club, planning to go all out and end this quickly. But I moved first. The look on his face when I charged him was absolutely priceless. For the past 20 minutes, he'd been chasing me while I ran like a scared rabbit. Now the rabbit was sprinting straight at him with murder in its eyes. He blinked. In that blink, I vanished from his vision. Clang, 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 clang. Metal shrieked against metal. Impacts hammered his body from every direction. His chi started going haywire from the barrage. Before he could even process what was happening, I'd circled his entire body and landed dozens of strikes in the span of a heartbeat. I tossed away my dulled, bent swords. Huidu looked down at himself. His armor, that thick, heavy iron plate that my swords couldn't even scratch 30 seconds ago, was hanging off him in shredded ribbons. Chunks falling to the ground. Gaps everywhere. His supposedly invincible shell had been carved apart like wrapping paper on a birthday present. His pupils shrank to pinpoints. The tables hadn't just turned. They'd been flipped, set on fire, and launched off the wall. Let me explain what having Qi feels like, because it's absolutely insane. Imagine your body is a robot suit. Before Qi, you're just a guy wearing the suit with no battery. Your arms move, your legs work, but everything runs on muscle and willpower. Now imagine someone jams a nuclear reactor into the chest slot. That's Qi. Everything you do becomes 10 times stronger, 10 times faster, 10 times more devastating. Your punches carry shockwaves. Your skin turns into armor plating. The 100 refinements technique specifically turns your body into living bronze and iron. Regular swords literally bounce off your skin now. It's the most broken power-up I've ever experienced, and I once found a double damage mushroom in a video game that felt pretty good. The difference between having Qi and not having Qi is the difference between being a human and being a superhero. That's why martial artists can fight 100 soldiers alone. It's not skill. It's not training. It's having a freaking energy reactor inside your chest cavity. So there I was, freshly nuclear-powered, dual-wielding swords, spinning around Huidu like a murderous ballerina. I was hacking at his armor from every angle, top, sides, back, gaps between the plates. My blades were powered by Qi now, and every strike actually bit into the iron instead of bouncing off. 100 slashes in seconds. When I finally stopped to catch my breath, his beautiful heavy armor looked like someone had attacked it with a chainsaw and lost interest halfway through. My sword proficiency climbed to 77. 100 refinements hit 52. Everything was growing beautifully, but here was the problem nobody warned me about. Qi is fuel. You burn it when you fight. That hurricane of slashing I just did ate up more than half my reserves. And unlike a gas station, you can't just pull over and refuel. You either pop magical pills, which I don't have, or rest, which takes forever. Mid-fight refueling is not an option. Also, these garbage swords I kept picking up off the ground were terrible. Dull, chipped, basically metal sticks. If I had a proper weapon, this mountain of muscle would already be hamburger meat. I tossed away my latest pair of ruined blades. They clattered among the chunks of Huodu's destroyed armor like sad confetti. Huodu looked down at himself. His precious iron fortress was in tatters. This armor was half his fighting strategy. It blocked normal attacks for free, so he could save chi for offense. Without it, every hit he took would cost chi to defend against. His fuel economy just got wrecked. Then he did something that made my stomach flip. He ripped off what was left of the armor. Just tore it away with his bare hands, revealing a body that looked like someone had sculpted a gorilla out of concrete. Muscles stacked on muscles. Veins like garden hoses. He looked like an anatomy chart designed by someone who thought normal anatomy wasn't scary enough. Good news. No armor means lower defense. My swords can actually hurt him now. Bad news. No armor also means no weight slowing him down. This dude was already terrifyingly strong. Now he was terrifyingly strong and fast. He came at me like a tiger that just drank 17 espressos. The spiked club was a blur. Where before I could slip under his swings and counterattack, now I could barely see the club before it was already past my face. The pressure doubled instantly. Before, he was a slow heavy tank. Now he was a fast heavy tank, which is just unfair. You shouldn't be allowed to be both. Familiar territory though. Back to desperately dodging, back to the edge of death. My old friend, Mortal Terror. We meet again. Boom, 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 boom. His club turned the ground beneath us into abstract art. Every soldier within 20 feet, Turk and Xiao alike, had evacuated the area. Nobody wanted to be anywhere near two martial artists trying to murder each other. Smart move, honestly. Even with my 100 refinements bronze skin defense, I calculated that one clean hit from his chi-powered club would absolutely yendi me. My remaining chi couldn't absorb that much force. One mistake, and I'd earned the world record for shortest martial arts career ever. Broke through 5 minutes ago, died 5 minutes later. What a legacy. I had to go offensive. Defensive meant slow death. I cranked my chi consumption to double speed, burning through reserves like a sports car burning premium gas. Everything around me slowed down. Huodu's movements went from impossible to merely terrifying. I could see openings again. I grabbed fresh swords and went back to carving. But this time I was strategic. My minor achievement sword skill came with a special effect: find the weak points. So I aimed for every gap, every vulnerability, every spot where the human body is softest. Brain, spine, armpits, ribs, the gentleman's region, tailbone, back of the knees, Achilles tendon. Each strike was a surgical attack on maximum damage zones. On a normal person, any one of these would be instantly fatal. Huodu's chi-reinforced body tanked them, but I could see it in his eyes. Every hit was draining him. Every cut was costing him chi to heal or endure. I checked our fuel gauges mentally. Me, about 1/3 remaining. Him, roughly half. Math wasn't in my favor. He had way more chi than me because he was 3 whole levels above my realm. His tank was bigger, and he still had more left percentage-wise and in total volume. I was burning mine at double speed just to keep up. This fight had become something very simple. Two guys burning through their life energy as fast as possible, trying to empty the other guy's tank first. Whoever runs out first dies. No tricks. No clever strategies. No system hacks. Just two warriors bleeding energy, blade against club, speed against power, on a wall surrounded by war. I clenched my teeth until they nearly cracked. My chi was dropping fast. His was dropping slower. The math said I should lose. But math has never met someone too stubborn to die. The wall had become pure hell. Everywhere I looked, soldiers were dying in the most horrific ways imaginable. One Xia defender got his arm chopped clean off, and instead of screaming and running, this absolute maniac threw away his weapon, bear-hugged the Turk who cut him with his remaining arm, and threw both of them off the wall together. Suicide tackle. That's not bravery, that's spite as a combat technique. Bodies were stacking up like firewood. Martial artists on both sides were dropping. Regular soldiers were dying even faster. The wall looked less like a battlefield and more like a butcher's floor after the world's worst Black Friday sale. Meanwhile, my personal duel with Huodu had entered what I'd call the mutually assured destruction phase. I was coughing blood. My armor was painted red, and not by a designer. That gorilla had clipped me with his spiked club earlier. One graze. Just a graze. Half my body went numb instantly. If I hadn't twisted at the last millisecond and redirected most of the impact, that swing would have deleted 50% of my torso from existence. Thank God for 100 refinements bronze skin defense. Without it, I'd be a very dramatic smear on the stone. But Huadu wasn't looking great either. He was leaning on his club like a cane, one hand on his knee, trying not to collapse under his own massive weight. His body was covered in so many cuts he looked like a human checkerboard. Blood was pouring out of him from everywhere and pooling at his feet like he was standing in a red puddle. If he were a car, every warning light on the dashboard would be screaming. We'd both burned through all our chi. Completely empty. Two martial artists running on fumes, willpower, and pure stubbornness. Here's the thing though, without chi, my system-enhanced body still worked just fine. My base stats were permanent. I was still fast, still strong, still dangerous. But Huadu without chi, that giant body became a liability. All that muscle needed energy to move, and he was running out of blood faster than a broken faucet. Every step was slower. Every swing was weaker. I tagged him with 7 or 8 more cuts while he could barely respond. He switched to pure defense, saving his last drops of chi for protection instead of offense. Smart. Because he knew if his chi hit 0 and I got close, my minor achievement swordsmanship would carve him up like a holiday turkey. But it didn't matter. He was bleeding out. Just a matter of time. A very bloody, very slow clock ticking down to his death. We stared at each other, both gasping, both destroyed, both too stubborn to fall first. Then I had a thought. A beautiful, elegant thought. Why am I standing here with swords when my bow is right there? My oxhorn bow was sitting on the ground 5 steps behind me. 5 steps. Triple shot at close range against a guy with no chi shield and no armor. He'd become the world's largest pincushion. I started backing up slowly. 1 step. 2 steps. Each step brought me closer to my bow and closer to victory. The ground was so torn up from our fight that my feet scraped and stumbled over craters. Huadu watched me retreat. He saw the bow behind me. He understood immediately. But he didn't move. He just stood there, bleeding, breathing like a broken bellows. It looked like he'd accepted his fate, like a wounded animal that knows it's over. 3 steps. 4 steps. 1 more, and I could reach down and grab it. I could practically hear the arrows thudding into his chest already. All that sweet, sweet experience. All that revenge for my fallen villagers. My breathing got faster. My heart was pounding. Almost there. Almost. Then the freak did something that made my soul leave my body. He threw away his club. His one weapon. Just dropped it. And then his entire body started radiating heat. Not metaphorical heat. Actual visible steam rising off his skin. His blood was literally evaporating out of his pores. He was shrinking. This 10-foot mountain of muscle was physically getting smaller, like a balloon deflating. His body was consuming itself, burning his own flesh and blood as fuel for one final attack. What kind of psycho-suicide technique, I asked this. Every hair on my body stood straight up. Every survival instinct, I had screamed the same word. Danger. I dove for the bow. Grabbed it. Drew 3 arrows. Full draw. Released. The arrows were fast. He was faster. He launched himself at me like a human cannonball. The distance between us evaporated in a blink. 3 arrows buried themselves in his chest up to the feathers. At that range, my dead grandmother could have made those shots, let alone someone with minor achievement archery. 3 arrows in his heart. Should be dead. Should be. His fist connected with my chest. Boom. I saw my entire life flash before my eyes. Not just this life. I swear I saw my previous life too. I think I briefly met my great-grandmother in some kind of afterlife waiting room. I flew backward like a cannonball and crashed into a pile of corpses 15 feet away. My chest was literally dented inward. My organs felt like they'd been put in a blender. I coughed up enough blood to fill a wine glass. The only reason I survived was because I'd recovered just a tiny sliver of chi right before impact and hardened one small patch of my chest with 100 refinements. A postage stamp of bronze skin between his fist and my death. His punching arm exploded from the recoil. Bones shattered. That arm was permanently finished. But the monster was still standing. 3 arrows in his chest, 1 arm destroyed, blood pouring from everywhere. and he was still walking toward me. Slowly, each step leaving a red footprint. His eyes were completely red, soaked in blood, like a demon from a horror painting. How are you not dead? I tried to grab my bow. My arms wouldn't respond. I tried to stand. My legs were suggestions, not functional limbs. The fact that I was still conscious was already a miracle. A strong breeze could kill me right now, let alone a martial artist zombie. He kept coming. Step, step, step. Getting closer. I crawled backward, but he was faster, even walking like a half-dead corpse. One more punch and I was done. Finished. Game over. No respawns. This was actually it. I was going to die on this stupid wall. Then, from a pile of dead bodies next to me, a tiny voice croaked, "SH Shenlai bro," and Xiaohu crawled out of the corpse pile like the world's smallest, most bloodied zombie. Huodu was still coming. A walking blood ghost. Steam rising off his skin like a human tea kettle from hell. His body had shrunk from mountain size to roughly my height. He'd literally burned away his own flesh for that final attack. The dude punched me so hard I briefly visited the afterlife, and he was still not dead. I was lying in a pile of corpses, completely broken. Couldn't move, couldn't speak, couldn't do anything except blink and regret every life decision that led me here. One more hit from anything. A punch, a sword, a strong handshake, and I was finished. Then Xiaohu crawled out of the body pile like the world's most terrifying baby chick hatching from the worst egg imaginable. Turns out, when Huodu body slammed our squad earlier, the kid got knocked unconscious and buried under the mounting corpses from the battle above. Being knocked out and buried in dead people actually saved his life. Sometimes the universe has a really dark sense of humor. He shook his head, looked around at the absolute apocalypse on the wall, and his eyes went dinner plate wide. Then he spotted me, soaked in blood, chest dented, barely breathing. Shenlai bro. I couldn't talk. Could barely make a sound. I tugged his sleeve with my one functioning finger and tried to communicate with my eyes. The message was simple: run. Get out of here. You can't fight this thing. You're not even a martial artist. You'll die for nothing. Xiaohu looked at me. He understood exactly what I meant. Then the little psychopath picked up his hunting bow and started shooting at the blood zombie. Arrow after arrow slammed into Huodu's body. The monster didn't dodge, didn't flinch, didn't even slow down. Just kept walking forward with arrows sticking out of him like a horrifying decoration. Xiaohu's little hunting bow was basically a toy against a martial artist, even a dying one. Shenlai bro, what I asked this thing? It won't die. I couldn't answer. I couldn't do anything. I just watched this 14-year-old kid stand between me and a literal blood demon, firing arrows into something that refused to stop existing. The blood ghost kept coming. 10 arrows in it now. Still walking. Still steaming. Still terrifying. Xiaohu stepped forward and put himself between me and the monster. His legs were shaking. His hands were trembling. He was absolutely, completely, pants-sweatingly terrified. Screw it. All I in. He threw away his bow, ripped out his saber, and charged. Full sprint. Screaming. He swung at the thing's neck with every ounce of strength in his small body. It was a suicide attack, total commitment, zero defense, every vulnerable spot on his body wide open. He closed his eyes and waited to die. 1 second passed. 2 seconds. 3. He opened his eyes. The blood ghost's head was on the ground. He'd cut it clean off. And the headless body took 2 more steps forward on pure momentum before crashing to the earth like a felled tree. What was left wasn't even really a body anymore, just a thin layer of blood-red skin stretched over bones. Like a deflated balloon shaped like a nightmare. The realization hit us both at the same time. Huodu had been dead for a while already. That suicide technique had killed him the moment he used it. His body was just running on fumes, momentum, and sheer hatred. A corpse on autopilot. The scariest zombie in military history, and Xiaohu killed it with one swing because there was basically nothing left to kill. I would have laughed if laughing wouldn't literally rupture my internal organs. That night, moonlight on the wall, everything silent. The kind of silence that only comes after thousands of people have screamed themselves empty. Insects chirping was the loudest sound in the world. Both armies were too exhausted to make noise. Too exhausted to exist. I was lying in the barracks wrapped head to toe in bandages like a budget mummy. The only things I could move were my eyeballs. Speaking was technically possible, but every word made my entire body feel like it was being stabbed by invisible needles. So I chose silence. Silence was nice. Silence didn't hurt. The military doctor had been examining my injuries earlier, and he kept sighing. Every few seconds, another heavy sigh. Each one made my heart sink deeper into my stomach. Am I permanently crippled? Am I going to be a vegetable? Why do you keep sighing, old man? Then I noticed he sighed at every patient the exact same way. It was just his thing. His personality trait was clinical depression expressed through respiratory sounds. False alarm. I almost died of anxiety on top of dying of injuries. I checked my stats. Swordsmanship proficiency jumped to 398. 100 refinements shot up to 377. Killing someone 3 levels above you gives insane experience. Troop command only reached 97 though, because half my squad died today. 5 out of 10. Gone. When I heard 5 survived, I almost launched off the bed with joy. 50% survival rate in that hellscape was basically a miracle. Can't be greedy. We're alive. That's enough. Xiaohu sat beside me spoon-feeding me herbal medicine like I was a giant injured baby. The medicine was slowly, emphasis on slowly, restoring tiny threads of qi inside me. At this rate, without proper healing pills, I'd be bedridden for a month minimum. Shirkai stared at my mummy-wrapped body with huge horrified eyes. He'd been stuck in camp all day with his shoulder wound, listening to the distant screaming and going crazy with worry. Poor guy. Then the door opened, and Yin Liang walked in. Shirkai and Xiaohu started to salute, then froze. Because Yin Liang's left arm was gone. Just. Absent. Empty sleeve. Chopped off during the battle. It's nothing, he said flatly. Still got one hand. The exhaustion in his voice could have filled an ocean. This man lost an arm today, and he was acting like he'd misplaced his keys. I managed to croak out a thank you for his concern. Every syllable was agony. He shook his head slowly. Regular medicine won't cut it for you. He reached into his coat with his one remaining hand. Pulled out a beautiful little porcelain bottle. He almost tossed it to us out of habit, then caught himself, probably remembering the contents were worth more than all of our lives combined, and gently placed it on the table instead. From the garrison commander himself. It's called a vein-mending pill. Vein-mending pill. Sounded fancy. The little porcelain bottle sitting on the table looked like something you'd find in a palace gift shop, not a blood-soaked army barracks. I remembered the wound medicine Yin Liang brought yesterday. That stuff was already incredible. Shirkai's arrow wound closed up overnight, and Xiaohu's scratches vanished like they never existed. We thought that was magic. So what was this new thing? The premium DLC healing item? In this world, martial artists have access to magical pills and medicines. Some restore qi, some repair broken bodies, and the really crazy ones can even help you break through to higher cultivation levels. Those breakthrough pills are basically unicorns though. Most low-level soldiers will never see one in their entire lives. We're talking, exists only in legends, territory for grunts like us. Yin Liang was a centurion, so his medical benefits were obviously better than ours. The man lost an entire arm today and was walking around like he'd stubbed his toe. Definitely popped something strong. But whatever pills a centurion gets, they're nothing compared to what a garrison commander has access to. And this pill came from the garrison commander himself, the top military officer of the entire Yunzhou war zone, multiple ranks above centurion. His cultivation level was at least mid-tier, the middle 3 realms of the 9-level martial arts system. The pills someone like that hoards must be absolutely bonkers. Then Yin Liang casually dropped the bomb. These pills are imperially bestowed. 5th grade. Every eyeball in the room nearly popped out of its socket. Martial arts has 9 major levels. Pills also have 9 grades. 5th grade pills are what mid-tier martial artists dream about at night while hugging their pillows. This wasn't garrison commander level. This was palace level. The emperor himself gave these pills out as rewards. I had severely underestimated this tiny bottle. We were holding something that came from the freaking imperial court. Yin Liang explained the backstory. Years ago, the garrison commander earned these pills by protecting the emperor during a catastrophic military campaign at a place called Bone Burial Valley. That name should tell you everything you need to know about how it went. The current emperor had ignored every advisor, mobilized the entire nation's military, and personally led them beyond the border to crush the newly unified Turk tribes, trying to cosplay as his legendary ancestor who conquered the northern steppes. Except his ancestor was actually good at war, and this emperor was decidedly not. The entire Xiao army got ambushed. Hundreds of thousands of soldiers died in foreign lands, becoming ghosts that would never find their way home. The emperor barely escaped with his life, ran back to the capital with his tail between his legs, locked himself in his palace, started doing mystical meditation nonsense, and never touched government business again. That disaster was why we were in this mess. The empire lost so many soldiers and martial artists that it could never go on the offensive again. Permanent defense mode. Which is how 100,000 Turks ended up surrounding our sad little border city with nobody coming to help. Great leadership, Your Majesty. Really knocked it out of the park. Anyway, Yin Liang told Xiaohu to open the bottle and give me the pills. 3 round, shiny, beautiful little spheres rolled into Xiaohu's palm. They practically glowed. All 3 of us stared at them like cavemen discovering fire. Xiaohu shook the bottle upside down, peered inside, shook it again, making absolutely sure nothing was left. Then he scooped up all 3 pills and aimed them at my mouth. Quick, Shenlai bro, eat up. Yin Liang's hand shot out and grabbed Xiaohu's wrist so fast I thought he'd break it. One is enough? His voice actually cracked with urgency. First time I'd ever heard this stone-cold warrior raise his pitch. The man lost an arm without flinching, but nearly had a heart attack watching a teenager try to feed me 3 priceless imperial pills at once. Xiaohu froze, nodded frantically, and carefully returned 2 pills to the bottle. Bless this kid. He genuinely thought more medicine equals more healing. Innocent farm boy logic. If 1 spoonful of soup is good, dump the whole pot in. His heart was pure, even if his pharmaceutical knowledge was non-existent. I swallowed the single pill. Everyone stared at me like I was a science experiment. Nothing happened. Then my stomach caught fire. Not metaphorical fire. It felt like someone lit a bonfire inside my gut. A savage, violent energy started rampaging through every meridian and vein in my body, smashing through blockages like a bull in a china shop. The burning spread everywhere. Arms, legs, chest, skull. My entire body was a furnace. Water. Water. I croaked through my sandpaper throat. Xiaohu scrambled for a cup, but before I could drink, the fire suddenly reversed into the most refreshing coolness I'd ever experienced. Like standing in autumn rain after a desert summer. Every cell in my body sighed with relief. Pure bliss. Then the fire came back. Then the coolness. Then fire again. My face was apparently cycling between extreme constipation and spa day enlightenment, so rapidly that Xiaohu and Shi Kai looked genuinely concerned I was having a seizure. Yin Liang sat there unbothered. Obviously, he'd seen this before. After several rounds of internal temperature warfare, everything stabilized. I was drenched in sweat, but my chi was surging back stronger than ever. I could feel my bones growing, my skin rebuilding, my muscles reinflating. Everything was itching like a million tiny ants crawling under my skin, which was disgusting, but also meant healing. My body was literally reconstructing itself from the inside out. When I finally calmed down, Yin Liang told me I'd be fully recovered within 3 days. 3 days. From human mummy with a dented chest to combat ready in 72 hours. 5th grade imperial pills are absolutely insane. He also told me to keep the remaining 2 pills. 2 spare pills that could save lives on a battlefield where people die every hour. These were priceless, literally beyond money. In a world where you could die from a stray arrow any second, having 2 emergency resurrection pills was like carrying 2 extra lives in your pocket. Thank you, sir, I managed to whisper. Don't thank me. Thank the garrison commander. Then Yin Liang's expression shifted. Do you know who that Turk martial artist you killed today was? How would I know? We didn't exactly exchange business cards between him trying to cave my skull in and me dodge rolling across the wall like a panicked hedgehog. He wasn't my uncle. I didn't check his LinkedIn profile. I stared blankly. Yin Liang continued, his voice measured and deliberate. His name was Huidu, known for unstoppable battlefield prowess. They called him the #1 centurion under the Turk left king's command. Oh, so that walking natural disaster who nearly ended my career, my life, and my entire bloodline in one punch, was basically the left king's strongest officer. And I killed him. No wonder the garrison commander sent imperial pills. The Turk's #1 centurion, Xiaohu's jaw almost detached from his face. Yin Liang corrected him calmly. #1 centurion under the left king's command, specifically. Oh, Well, that makes it so much better. I didn't kill just any legendary warrior. I killed the Left King's personal favorite legendary warrior. The MVP. The star player. The guy whose face was probably on Turk trading cards. Here's the thing. When I was fighting Huadu, all I knew was, big scary man with big scary stick trying to make me flat. I had zero idea he was famous. And thank God for that, because if someone had whispered, hey, that's the most feared centurion in the entire Left King's army, while I was dodge rolling for my life, my brain would have simply shut down like an overloaded computer. Blue screen. Fatal error. Reboot impossible because the user is dead. Yin Liang stared out the window, his remaining arm resting on the table, and started telling us about Huadu's history. 3 years ago at Bone Burial Valley, he was only at Martial Apprentice Advanced stage. Even then, he slaughtered countless Xia soldiers with that spiked club. I fought him personally. Never expected he'd reach peak stage in just 3 years. Then he explained the blood steam horror show. Apparently, the Turks have a creepy technique called the blood-burning art. It literally burns your own blood, muscles, and even bones as fuel for one massive burst of power. That's what Huadu did at the end. He set his own body on fire from the inside to throw that final punch. Pure kamikaze insanity. A technique designed for mutual destruction when you've already lost. So that's why he kept walking with 3 arrows in his chest. He was already dead. His body was just a burning candle making its last flicker. The creepiest, most terrifying candle in military history. What I truly didn't expect, Yin Liang said, turning back to look at me with eyes full of complicated emotions, was that he would die at your hands. I could tell he wasn't being insulting. He was genuinely, deeply, bone-level shocked. And honestly, I couldn't blame him. Let's review the facts objectively. I became a martial artist approximately 5 minutes before the fight ended. I was at the absolute basement level of cultivation. My opponent was at the absolute ceiling of his tier, with years of battlefield experience and a reputation that made grown warriors wet themselves. Me beating him was like a toddler knocking out a heavyweight boxing champion. It shouldn't happen. It can't happen. Except it did, and everyone saw it, and now everyone's trying to figure out how. The real answer was my cheat system, obviously. But I couldn't exactly explain that. Plus, even with the system, I nearly died approximately 17 times during that fight. If Huadu hadn't been arrogant at the start, if he'd gone full power immediately instead of playing cat and mouse, I'd be a red stain on the wall right now. And without Xiaohu's miracle decapitation at the end, I'd be an even redder stain. Lions use full strength even when hunting rabbits. Huadu forgot that rule. His title made him cocky. Being called Number 1 inflated his ego just enough to create the tiny opening I needed to survive long enough for my system to carry me through. Lesson learned. Never underestimate anyone, especially not someone with a mysterious golden cheat system living in their brain. Perhaps true prodigies really do exist in this world, Yin Liang murmured to himself, which was flattering but also slightly ominous. Then he got practical. With your achievement today and your new martial artist status, getting you a Centurion position would be easy. My ears perked up. Centurion. That's 100 soldiers under my command. But right now, even if I made you a garrison commander, it wouldn't matter, he laughed tiredly. There are no soldiers left to give you. Reality check. Brutal. 2 days of fighting had carved our 10,000-man garrison down to under 6,000. We'd lost 4,000 defenders in 48 hours. The math was extinction-level bad. Before the siege, Yunzhou had sent desperate pleas for reinforcements to every neighboring region. But the entire border was on fire simultaneously. The Turk Left King had our western front. The Right King was hammering the eastern front at Yenzhou. Every fortress along the entire border was screaming for help. Nobody could spare troops because everyone was equally screwed. Emergency messages were flying toward the capital like snowflakes in a blizzard. But the emperor, the same genius who got his entire army destroyed at Bone Burial Valley and then retired to his palace to meditate and pretend the world didn't exist, probably wasn't reading any of them. Great. Our supreme leader was doing yoga while the empire burned. Truly inspiring. But leaving you as a mere squad leader doesn't feel right either, Yin Liang continued. I'm promoting you to banner captain under my command. As for soldiers, I literally cannot spare a single one. My own unit doesn't even have 100 men anymore, banner captain. 1 rank below centurion. officially supposed to command 50 soldiers. I had 7. Me, Shirkai, Xiaohu, and 5 surviving farmers. 7 people. A squad you could fit in a minivan. I saluted from my bed, which looked ridiculous because I was wrapped in bandages like a department store mannequin and could barely lift my arm. Thank you, sir. Honestly, though, I didn't care about the title. Where I came from, job titles were just fancy words on business cards that didn't pay your rent. Squad leader, banner captain, grand supreme commander of everything. None of it mattered if you didn't have people to lead or a city to stand on. Shirkai and Xiaohu were thrilled, though. They bumped fists excitedly. My promotion meant they automatically became my sub-officers. Yesterday, they were homeless conscripts. Today, they were military officials. The glow-up was real, even if our army could lose a group fight to a moderately aggressive book club. Yin Liang stood to leave, then paused. You and Shirkai rest tomorrow. Heal up. Xiaohu, you fought 2 days straight. You're on reserve duty. Stay ready, but don't go to the wall unless called. Yes, SIR. They barked in unison. After he left, the room got quiet. Through the window, I could see the moonlit silhouette of Yunzhou's battered walls. Somewhere beyond them, 70 to 80,000 Turks were sharpening their swords and planning tomorrow's assault. 6,000 defenders. No reinforcements coming. The garrison commander's brilliant tactics had kept us alive this long, but tactics can't create soldiers from thin air. Even a reincarnated god of war can't win when the math simply doesn't work. We were running out of wall, running out of men, running out of time. And I was lying here with 2 imperial healing pills, a body held together by magical medicine and stubbornness, wondering if I'd even get the chance to fully recover before the next crisis arrived. 7 soldiers, 1 battered city, 100,000 enemies. The odds were absolutely, catastrophically, hilariously terrible. The left king had promised to crack Yunzhou in 3 days. Day 1 was brutal. Day 2 was apocalyptic. Day 3 was supposed to be the grand finale, the kill shot, the moment our battered 6,000 defenders finally got steamrolled into history. Everyone knew it. The night before, soldiers wrote their last letters home. They bundled up whatever pitiful savings they had and sent everything out. No more attachments. No more regrets. Tomorrow they'd die with the city, and they'd made peace with it. Dawn broke. We stood on the walls. Full armor. Weapons ready. Hearts beating like war drums. And then, nothing. The Turk camp sat there like a sleeping bear. No formations. No drums. No screaming cavalry charging out of the morning mist. Just tents and silence and the occasional horse sneezing in the distance. We waited. The sun climbed higher. Still nothing. Noon came and went. Not a single Turk showed his face. Every defender on that wall spent the entire day standing in full gear under a blazing sun, staring at an empty field, sweating through their armor, and slowly losing their minds. The officers started theorizing up on the battlements like confused professors at a really violent university. What kind of trick is this? Maybe they learned strategy. Those savages don't know the first thing about military tactics. They probably can't even spell ambush. Everyone laughed nervously because nervous laughter was better than screaming. By evening, we finally accepted it. The Turks weren't coming today. Nobody understood why. 2 days of catastrophic fighting, the city practically on its knees, victory right there for the taking, and they just stopped, like a cat that cornered a mouse and then wandered off to lick itself. The garrison commander wasn't taking any chances, though. He tripled night patrols and tightened security everywhere. If the Turks were planning a midnight assassination or sneak attack, we'd be ready. But the night was dead quiet. Not even the dogs were barking. The whole city held its breath under the moonlight. Next morning, same thing. Nothing. The Turks sat in their camp like they were on vacation. What are these morons doing? Won't fight, won't leave. What's the plan here? One officer grumbled. An older centurion stroked his chin thoughtfully. My guess? Something big happened back on the grasslands. Something that's got their attention more than us. Day 3 of nothing. Day 4. Total silence from the Turk side. Both armies just sat there staring at each other across the field like the world's most awkward blind date. The peace should have been relaxing. Instead, it was making everyone insane. Not knowing is worse than fighting. At least when arrows are flying, you know what's happening. This limbo was pure psychological torture. But the commanders used every second wisely. Training drills ran from sunrise to sunset. New conscripts getting crash courses in not dying. Soldiers who'd survived the battle were teaching newbies everything they'd learned. Nighttime brought rotating guard shifts. Nobody slept properly. Nobody relaxed. This was still a battlefield, and the enemy was still right there. Shi Kai and Xiao Hu were on the training ground, sparring with military spears. Shi Kai's arrow wound had healed beautifully thanks to the premium medicine. The man was moving like he'd never been hurt. Xiao Hu was bouncing around with his usual hyperactive puppy energy, completely recovered from being body-slammed by a 10-foot martial artist and buried under a pile of corpses. Kids are resilient. Terrifyingly so. Yin Liang was personally drilling them during these quiet days, cramming as much combat technique into their skulls as possible. Smart man. Every hour of peace was an hour of preparation for the next storm. As for me, I wasn't at the training ground. Not because I was still injured. Oh no. That imperial vein-mending pill was absolutely ridiculous. By day 2 after taking it, I could already walk around normally. I literally scared Xiao Hu and Shi Kai awake by standing up and stretching like nothing had happened. They freaked out and demanded I stay in bed. Didn't believe me when I said I felt fine. Treated me like a stubborn grandpa who refuses to use his wheelchair. By day 3, I was genuinely healed. When I finally unwrapped my bandages and the boys saw fresh new muscle where there used to be hamburger meat, their jaws dropped so hard I heard them click. Their respect for that little porcelain bottle went from valuable medicine to gift from the actual gods. So where was I instead of training? Getting summoned by the brass. That's where. A messenger came to the training ground and specifically asked for all officers centurion rank and above, plus me by name. Shi Kai and Xiao Hu exchanged confused looks as I walked off with the messenger. What do you think they want with Shun Lai, bro? Xiao Hu asked, distracted enough that Shi Kai almost skewered him with a practice spear. Not our business. We follow orders. That's it, Shi Kai replied, wiping sweat and being his usual mature self. Xiao Hu pouted, then mumbled, I miss my mom and dad. Since nobody's fighting, can't we go visit? This is an army camp, not your village playground. You don't just wander home because you're feeling homesick, you absolute child. Shut down again. Xiao Hu sulked and went back to poking the air with his spear like a sad little warrior. Then, hoofbeats. A cloud of dust exploded across the training ground. A gorgeous tall horse skidded to a dramatic stop right in front of the two boys, spraying dirt everywhere. Xiao Hu coughed through the dust cloud. When it cleared, he looked up and saw me sitting on that horse like a general from a painting. Shun Lai, bro, where'd you get a horse? The kid's eyes went supernova. His brain completely short-circuited. He forgot about his parents, forgot about training, forgot about literally everything except the magnificent animal standing in front of him. His hidden cavalry commander talent was practically vibrating. I jumped down and tossed him the reins. He grabbed them like he was holding a newborn baby. Pure love at first sight. Shi Kai, ever practical? Asked the real question. Shun Lai, what's happening? Orders from above? I nodded, then grinned. Pack your stuff, boys. We're going home. Home? Both of them looked at me like I'd spoken an alien language. That's right. Home. I let the suspense hang for exactly 1 second. We're going back to the village to recruit soldiers. Shi Kai and Xiao Hu heard, going home, and their brains split into two completely different reactions. Xiao Hu only processed the words, going home, and immediately started vibrating with excitement. This kid had just been whining to Shi Kai about missing his parents, got roasted for it, and now the universe was literally granting his wish 5 minutes later. The look on Shi Kai's face was priceless, somewhere between embarrassed and annoyed that reality had made him look like a jerk. What exactly happened in the meeting? Xiao Hu asked, bouncing along behind me while holding the horse's reins like it was his firstborn child. Pack first, talk later, I said. We swung by the barracks, grabbed our stuff, and collected my 5 surviving farmer soldiers. The second those guys heard the word village, their faces lit up like lanterns at a festival. They'd been through absolute hell. Arrow storms, siege towers, martial artists, mountains of corpses, and now they were going home. With actual military pay in their pockets. Real money. Every single one of them had that. Wait until the wife sees this, energy radiating off them. 8 people and 1 horse. We changed out of military uniforms into civilian clothes because, oh yeah, there was still a massive Turk army camped outside the city that might notice a squad of soldiers casually strolling out the back door. We slipped out of Yunzhou and hit the road fast. While walking, I explained the situation. The garrison commander had called a war council. His assessment: the Turks stopping their attack meant something huge had happened back on the grasslands. Maybe a rival tribe attacked their homeland. Maybe their supplies got raided. Whatever it was, they probably wouldn't assault the city again immediately. But probably doesn't win wars. 2 days of fighting had gutted our garrison from 10,000 to under 6,000. If the Turks came back in force, we were absolutely finished. So the commander issued emergency orders. Every officer was to recruit, conscript, beg, borrow, or steal as many warm bodies as humanly possible. Grab farmers. Grab criminals. Grab actual bandits from the mountains. If they could hold a weapon and point it at Turks, they were hired. Standards had officially been yeeted out the window. Yin Liang immediately thought of us. He remembered we were from Qingxi village, famous across the entire Yunzhou region for producing insanely good hunters. Every farmer there doubles as an archer. The whole village is basically a military academy disguised as a farming community. So he gave me the recruitment mission with a quota of 20 men. Go home, bring back shooters. I was thrilled. My troop command skill desperately needed more soldiers underneath me. 5 guys was pathetic. My leadership proficiency was crawling at the speed of a sedated turtle. More soldiers meant more kills meant faster leveling. Simple math. Beautiful math. Xiaohu immediately spotted the flaw in my plan. Shunlai bro, you know our village. The second anyone sees government soldiers coming to draft people, every man, woman, and child vanishes into the mountains like smoke. You literally cannot find them. They've been dodging conscription for generations. It's practically our village sport. Fair point. That's exactly how we avoided getting drafted for years. The only reason we got caught was dumb luck. We walked straight into a patrol coming down from a hunt. Wrong place, wrong time, wrong road. Shirkai was equally skeptical. 20 people? In the middle of a losing war? Joining the army right now is basically volunteering to die. Who's going to sign up for that? Also fair. The phrase, good men don't become soldiers, existed for a reason in this world. Convincing people to enlist during peacetime was hard enough. During an active siege with catastrophic casualty rates, might as well ask people to jump into a volcano for minimum wage. But I had confidence. There's always a way. We convince them with logic, tempt them with rewards, whatever works. Trust me. They didn't fully understand my plan, but after watching me survive things that should have killed me approximately 47 times, both of them had reached the Shunlai says jump. We ask how high stage of loyalty. If I said I had a plan, that was good enough. We traveled fast down the main road, then turned onto the smaller path toward Qingxi village. The trail was bumpy, muddy, and surrounded by increasingly dense forest. The 5 soldiers who'd been conscripted from nearby villages started getting emotional seeing familiar mountains in the distance. We'd only been gone a few days, but it felt like returning from another lifetime. Because honestly, it kind of was. We left as scared farmers. We were coming back as soldiers who'd stared death in the face and told it to get in line. Then someone ahead went, "Ow wow," and interrupted our sentimental moment. A donkey cart was blocking the path. Its wheels were stuck deep in the mud. Several large wooden barrels sat on top. An old man was leaning against it, groaning and sighing dramatically about his predicament. Shirkai, Xiaohu, and I exchanged one quick look. We all had the same thought. But Shirkai played it cool. "Need help, old-timer?" he asked, walking up friendly as could be. The old man showed zero surprise at 8 strangers appearing on a remote forest road. Interesting. Very interesting. Instead, he smiled warmly and accepted help immediately. While the soldiers pushed his cart free, the old man asked where we were from. Shirkai fed him a cover story about being merchants looking to buy animal pelts. The old man nodded along, perfectly relaxed. Then he popped open a barrel lid. The smell of homemade wine hit us like a fragrant wall. He offered us drinks as thanks. Sweet old grandpa sharing his booze with helpful strangers. Heartwarming. Except Shirkai reached under the cart. Instead of reaching for a cup, he pulled out a gleaming steel sword hidden underneath. "Grandpa, why does a wine merchant need military-grade weapons for a business trip?" The old man's eyes went wide. Panic flashed across his face for half a second before he recovered his smile. Dangerous times. Just for self-defense. Shirkai's friendly expression vanished like someone flipped a switch. He grabbed the old man and pinned him. "Cut the garbage. You're bandits." The wine is bait. The stuck cart is staged. On cue, the forest around us erupted with rustling. Dozens of armed men emerged from the trees on every side, weapons drawn, forming a circle around our group. Exactly what I expected. Yep, highway robbery. The oldest trick in the book, complete with a fake helpless grandpa, prop donkey, and ambush squad hiding in the bushes. This was going to be fun. The bandits popped out of the trees like angry mushrooms. Dozens of them, all armed with swords, spears, and crossbows, surrounding our little group with what they clearly thought was an intimidating display of force. Cute. My guys didn't even flinch. After surviving 100,000 Turks, siege towers, martial artist duels, and literal blood zombies, a few dozen forest hobos with rusty weapons were about as scary as an angry kitten. The only one stressed was the horse, snorting and stamping nervously. Even the horse had seen worse. Xiaohu moved like lightning, yanking swords from the horse's saddlebags and tossing them to our 5 soldiers. Within seconds, everyone was back-to-back in formation with me protected in the center. These boys had learned well. I'd known the old wine merchant was fake from the moment we saw him. Think about it. We're in the middle of a war zone. Turks invading, bandits everywhere, total chaos across the countryside. And this grandpa is just casually rolling a donkey cart full of wine barrels down a remote forest trail, alone, without a care in the world. And when 8 armed strangers appeared, he showed zero fear. That's not a merchant. That's bait. I've read all 4 classic novels from my previous life. I know exactly how the drugged wine plus fake breakdown ambush works. Those barrels were definitely spiked with knockout drugs. Drink the wine, pass out, wake up naked in a ditch minus all your belongings. Classic Bandit Playbook, Chapter 1, Page 1. Shirkai had spotted it too. That's why he found the hidden sword under the cart before anyone touched the wine. Smart man. The bandits' plan A crumbled, so they went with plan B. Jump out of the bushes and threaten us directly. Their leader strutted through the crowd like he owned the forest. Big guy, wild beard, carrying a fancy battle axe. Very dramatic entrance. Very confident energy. He demanded we leave the horse and our supplies, and he generously let us live. I almost laughed. How about you drop your weapons, and I'll let you live, I said, projecting my voice with a burst of chi. The sound hit like a physical force. Trees shook. Leaves rustled and fell. Every bandit within earshot grabbed their head as the chi-enhanced roar rattled their skulls like bells. The boss bandit's swagger evaporated instantly. His face went from, "I'm robbing you," to, "I've made a catastrophic error in judgment," in about half a second. He recognized what that sound meant. A martial artist. His eyes darted around our group, probably wondering if the others were martial artists too. The math in his head was changing rapidly from easy score to mass funeral. By the way, my body was basically fully healed thanks to the Imperial pill. Not only healed, the leftover medicinal energy had my chi reserves overflowing. I was actually on the edge of breaking through to the next cultivation level. These bandits had picked the absolute worst possible day to mess with me. Attack! I roared, drawing twin swords from my back. The nearest bandits barely processed the word before 2 silver flashes crossed their vision. Then their vision started rotating weirdly because their heads were no longer attached to their bodies and were tumbling into the grass. Xiaohu, Shirkai, and the soldiers erupted into action simultaneously. Within seconds, over a dozen bandits were on the ground, dead or dying. My squad had fought the most dangerous army on the continent for 2 straight days. These forest amateurs were fighting people several weight classes above them and didn't even know it. The bandit boss saw how fast his people were dropping and immediately made the smart decision. Run. He bolted toward the tree line at full sprint. I grabbed a bough, knocked an arrow, and put it through his back. Center mass. He dropped face first into the dirt, dead before he finished falling. The remaining bandits panicked and scattered like cockroaches when the lights turn on. But I wasn't done. I rapid-fired over a dozen arrows into the trees. Not at the fleeing bandits, but inches from their faces, embedding each arrow into tree trunks right beside their heads. One more step and you die. I thundered with chi amplification. Everyone froze. Mid-stride. Mid-breath. Like someone had pressed the universal pause button. One idiot decided to test me. He took exactly one sneaky step. My arrow found him before his foot finished touching the ground. He joined his boss in permanent retirement. The remaining 15-ish bandits collectively decided that living was better than running. Weapons clattered to the ground. Grown men started begging on their knees. "Great king, spare us. We'll be your slaves. Your oxen. Your donkeys. Whatever you want, great king," I grinned. I'd come here to recruit 20 soldiers for the army, and fate had just handed me 15 warm bodies before I even reached the village. The garrison commander said recruit anyone. Farmers, criminals, bandits. These guys qualified beautifully. "Tie them up. They're coming to Yinzhou with us," I ordered. My soldiers roped them into a long human chain, and we continued down the road, now with a bandit conga line trailing behind us. My troop command talent would ensure they'd follow orders once properly enrolled. No rebellion worries here. As we got closer to Qingxi village, things started feeling wrong. Xiaohu complained about bandits getting bolder, operating so close to the main road. Shirkai pointed out that with the Turk invasion consuming all military resources, nobody was left to clean up these pests. Fair point, depressing point. Then we arrived at the village, and my stomach dropped. The fields were empty. Not a single farmer anywhere. The familiar peaceful scenery from our memories was gone, replaced by tall earthen walls surrounding the entire village like a crude fortress. Someone had fortified the place. Recently. "Where is everybody?" Xiaohu asked, staring at the eerily silent village he'd grown up in, now looking like a stranger's home. "Something's wrong," Shirkai muttered, hand drifting toward his weapon. "Let's go see," I said, leading the group toward the makeshift walls. We got within about 20 steps. Thwack! An arrow buried itself in the ground directly in front of my feet, still vibrating. A warning shot from the top of the wall. Someone inside our own village had just shot at us. Welcome home indeed. An arrow slammed into the dirt right in front of my feet. Not a Turk arrow. Not a bandit arrow. Someone from inside my own village just shot at me. Xiaohu and Shirkai whipped out their sabers instantly, scanning for threats. "What the heck is happening?" Xiaohu yelled, waving his blade around like an angry windmill. I was equally confused. Qingxi village was supposed to be the friendliest place on earth. Warm neighbors, open doors, free food everywhere. Basically a fairy tale hamlet where everyone loved each other and nothing bad ever happened. And now they were greeting us with arrows? Then two voices drifted over the wall. "Wait, that voice sounds familiar. Is that Xiaohu?" Impossible, he got taken by the soldiers. Two teenagers were arguing behind the barricade like confused parrots. Xiaohu's face lit up with recognition. He lowered his sword and bellowed at the wall. "Zhang Liao, Zhang Yuan, is that you two little punks? ITISXIOHU. Two heads popped over the wall like prairie dogs. Twin brothers, practically identical, both carrying hunting bows. Their eyes went wide as dinner plates when they spotted the rest of us. Shirkai bro too. And Shunlai. And Uncle Li and Uncle Nio. Village chief, they're back. The wooden gate lifted and the twins came sprinting out, grinning like idiots. Shirkai immediately demanded answers about the fortifications. Zhang Liao looked sheepish. "Sorry, Shirkai bro. You guys came marching up with weapons and a military vibe. From a distance, we thought you were bandits. Fair enough, actually. A few days in the army had changed us more than I realized. We walk differently now. Harder. Sharper." The casual farmer slouch was gone, replaced by the coiled alertness of people who'd killed and nearly been killed. Even our 5 conscript soldiers carried themselves with a dangerous edge that had nothing to do with their farming backgrounds. We looked like trouble because we were trouble. The twins explained that mountain bandits had been raiding more aggressively lately. With all military forces focused on the Turk invasion, nobody was left to keep the local criminals in check. The village had built these earthen walls and posted lookouts as a desperate self-defense measure. The peaceful paradise of my memories had turned into a tiny, frightened fortress. We filed through the gate, and the twins sealed it behind us immediately. Inside, the village looked the same. Familiar houses, familiar paths, familiar smells of cooking fires and livestock. But the feeling was completely different. Every household had someone peeking out their door with weapons ready. Zhang family uncle with a pitchfork. Li family auntie with a kitchen cleaver. Everyone was wound tighter than a crossbow string, expecting bandits around every corner. Then an old man burst out of a house and tackle-hugged Xiaohu so hard I thought they'd both fall over. "My little tiger. My baby is home." Old man Wang, Xiaohu's father, was crying and laughing and snotting all over his son simultaneously. This old guy had his only child taken by government soldiers just days ago and probably thought he'd never see him again. Now here was Xiao Hu, alive, armored, and apparently an actual military officer. The emotional whiplash nearly killed the poor man. Xiao Hu, displaying zero emotional intelligence as usual, just grinned like a golden retriever. "Hey Dad, I'm back." Old man Wang inspected his son head to toe, checking for damage. "Those government dogs better not have mistreated you." "Nobody messes with me, Dad. I'm a sub-banner officer now. I command dozens of soldiers." Xiao Hu puffed out his chest and flashed his official military identification tag with the pride of a kindergartner showing off a gold star. Old man Wang's brain visibly buffered for 3 seconds. Then he performed the fastest opinion reversal in human history. "Oh my boy is an official. I always said the government treats its people right. What a wonderful institution." Dad of the year, ladies and gentlemen. Zero to Patriot in under 5 seconds. The Zhang twins grabbed Xiao Hu's ID tag and started examining it like jewelers appraising a diamond. "Is this real? You didn't just carve this yourself, did you?" "I can't even read, you moron." "How would I carve official characters?" Xiao Hu snapped, which was honestly the most devastating cell phone I'd witnessed in 2 lifetimes. Then a cough cut through the chatter. The kind of cough that makes an entire crowd shut up. Someone announced, "The village chief is here." The crowd parted like water. An old man with white hair hobbled forward on a walking stick, each step deliberate and heavy with authority. Chief Li surveyed our group with narrow, calculating eyes. This man ran Qingxi village with an iron fist wrapped in a grandfatherly glove. Everyone respected him. Everyone feared him a little. "So the government sent you kids back, did they?" His tone was mild, but underneath it was steel reinforcement. Even Xiao Hu immediately dropped his clown act and went full respectful mode. "Chief Li, sir, we're here on military orders." "Military orders? What orders?" Xiao Hu opened his mouth, realized he had no idea how to explain anything diplomatically, and turned to me with desperate eyes. "Shenlai bro, you do it." "I'm bad with words." Understatement of the century. I stepped forward. Chief Li examined me like I was a suspicious vegetable at the market. "Oh, the Shen boy." "Chief Li, Shenlai bro is a banner captain now. He's our commanding officer," Xiao Hu added helpfully. The crowd gasped. "Me? The skinny kid who couldn't pull a heavy hunting bow? The orphan hunter's son who everyone kind of pitted? Now suddenly outranking everyone here?" I could practically hear their brains short-circuiting. Chief Li's eyebrow arched with unmistakable skepticism. "Oh? And what wisdom does the esteemed banner captain wish to share with us humble villagers?" The sarcasm was thick enough to spread on bread. I didn't take the bait. "Chief Li, we're here to recruit volunteer soldiers to help defend Yunzhou City." Boom. The crowd exploded. Panic, anger, fear, every negative emotion hit at once like a bomb going off. "They're taking more people?" Chief Li's face turned the color of a thundercloud. His mustache literally bristled upward with rage. He raised his walking stick like he was about to beat me senseless. Get out. Get out of this village. You want to drag more of our children to their deaths?" Over my dead body, I stood perfectly still. Didn't dodge. Didn't flinch. Thankfully, several uncles grabbed Chief Li before his cane connected with my skull, talking him down with soothing voices. "Chief, they're still our village kids. Let's talk this out. Let them rest first." Chief Li yanked his arm free, shot me a look that could curdle milk, and hobbled away muttering furiously. His final words hung in the air like a thunderclap. "You can stay. But if you take one person from this village, you'll have to go through me first." Shirkai and Xiao Hu both looked at me with worried faces, waiting for my reaction. I just smiled. "Everyone go home. Rest. Eat. We'll figure this out after dinner." The tension slowly deflated. People dispersed. Old man Wang grabbed Xiao Hu's arm with a beaming smile. "Come home, tiger. Your sister's making flatbread." Recruitment was going to be harder than killing Turks. At least Turks didn't guilt-trip you with grandpa energy. I sent everyone home to rest, but I didn't go to my own house right away. There was nobody waiting for me there. The original owner of this body lost both parents to illness years ago. Little orphan Shun Lai grew up eating charity meals from neighbors. A scrawny kid everyone felt sorry for. No family dinners. No warm welcomes. Just an empty shack and spider webs. But first I had a job to do. A heavy one. I carried a bundle from the horse's saddlebag. Inside wasn't gold or supplies. It was death pay, compensation money for the conscripts from our village who died defending Yunzhou. Yin Liang had personally handed me the list before we left. Their bodies can't come home, he'd said quietly. Make sure their families at least get this. So I went door to door, house after house. Every time someone opened their door and saw me, a village kid who'd apparently become an officer, their expressions did this awkward dance between respect and nervousness. People who used to ruffle my hair were suddenly calling me, sir, without meaning to. Then I'd tell them, your husband died, your father died, your son died, and all that's left is this small pouch of silver coins. The crying started at the first house and never really stopped. Each door I knocked on added another voice to the chorus of grief echoing through the village. Wives who'd never see their husbands again. Children who'd grow up without fathers. Old parents who'd outlive their sons. A line from a poem invaded my brain and wouldn't leave. Pity the bones beside the nameless river, still the lover dreaming in her spring chamber. Poetry from my previous life, describing this life with surgical precision. I hate it when dead poets are right. By the time I finished delivering every last coin, it was dark. I walked into my house, a dirt floor shack with one bed, one table, one stove, and freshly installed spider condos on the ceiling beams. Nothing had changed except there was more dust. The oil lamp barely illuminated the room, flickering like it was also depressed. Minimalist living. Very trendy. Totally by choice and not because I own literally nothing. I was scrounging around for something to eat when Xiaohu's voice exploded outside like a small bomb. Shunlai bro you home? Before I could answer, the door burst open and in charged Xiaohu carrying a basket that smelled like heaven had opened a bakery. Have you eaten? My sister made flatbread. Still warm. Try it. The smell hit me. Oil, wheat, warmth, home. And my stomach roared so loud it could have scared off the Turk army. I demolished 7 or 8 pieces before my hand slowed down. Each bite was crispy outside, soft inside, dripping with fragrant oil. After days of military slop and medicinal soup, this was basically a religious experience. Good, right? My sister's the best cook, Xiaohu beamed, proud as if he'd made them himself. Which he absolutely did not. I told him his family's cooking explained why he was built like a baby bull. He laughed and scratched his head like the lovable idiot he was. Then his mood dropped. So what about recruiting? You saw Chief Li today. That old man's temper is harder than the rocks in an outhouse. If he won't agree, nobody in this village will dare join us. He had a point. Chief Li was the gatekeeper. His word was law here. He misunderstood us, I said. He thinks we're the same as those government thugs who drag people away in chains. We need to explain we're recruiting volunteers to fight Turks, not kidnapping farmers for slave labor. Xiaohu's eyes lit up as a phrase slowly surfaced from deep storage in his brain. It's protecting the homeland. He looked so proud of remembering Yin Liang's words that I almost applauded. Let's go talk to him right now, I said. We stood up to leave and immediately heard Shirkai's voice outside. Shunlai, you home? The door flew open again. At this rate, my door was getting more action than the city gates. Shirkai walked in, spotted Xiaohu and the flatbread basket, and before Xiaohu could offer him food, waved it off. Already ate. Listen, my dad sent me. He's at Chief Li's house right now with the village elders. They want us there. Perfect. Xiaohu slapped his hands together. We were just heading to see the chief. What a coincidence. Shirkai looked mildly confused by Xiaohu's enthusiasm, but got dragged out the door before he could question it. Walking through the village at night was surreal. Every house had torches burning outside. Patrol teams walked the paths. Guard dogs barked from various corners. The whole village was operating like a miniature military camp. If I closed my eyes, I could almost pretend I was back in Yunzhou. Shirkai, I asked as we walked, is this meeting about recruiting? Partly. But there's something more urgent. His face was grim. Bandits coming to raid the village? I guessed. You noticed too? He nodded. Multiple villages in Qingxi County have already been hit. The bandits are working their way toward us. Of course. The ambush on the road, the fortified walls, the armed patrols, the nervous villagers clutching kitchen knives, it all pointed to one thing. Mountain bandits were terrorizing the countryside while the army was busy fighting Turks, and Qingxi village was next on the menu. Xiaohu cracked his knuckles with a murderous grin. Let them come. They picked the wrong village this time. We'll send every last one of them to meet their ancestors. We reached Chief Li's house. Light glowed through the windows. Voices murmured inside. We entered and found the village power structure assembled. Chief Li sat at the head, white-haired and scowling, flanked by several important village men, including Shi Kai's father, Uncle Shi, the head hunter who led every dangerous expedition into the mountains. When wolves or tigers or boar kings needed killing, this man organized the hunting parties. He was basically the village's unofficial military commander. Everyone went quiet as we sat down. Chief Li's eyes swept over us like searchlights. Then, without warning, his voice cut through the silence like a blade. Shen boy, Shi Kai's kid here tells me you killed several hundred Turks. Is that true? Chief Li hit me with the question before but even warmed the chair. Shen boy, Shi Kai's kid says you killed over 100 Turks. That true? Wait, we're not talking about recruiting? I'd walked in with a whole speech prepared about volunteering and patriotic duty and protecting families. And instead Grandpa Grumpy wanted to know my kill count? Okay, sure, let's do this. I glanced at Shi Kai. He gave me a subtle nod. That beautiful, loyal rock of a human being had clearly dragged his father here early and spent the whole evening hyping me up to the village elders. Wingman of the century. I owed him approximately 14 beers and a lifetime of gratitude. Over 100, I scratched my head, pretending to think really hard about it. Classic humble brag setup. Chief Li snorted impatiently and muttered something about kids and their tall tales. 100 probably isn't right, I said slowly. Everyone leaned forward. It's closer to 200, honestly. The room went cold. Every elder's face scrunched up like they'd bitten into a lemon stuffed inside another lemon. Nobody believed me. They thought I was mocking them. A scrawny village orphan claiming 200 kills against the most feared warriors on the continent? Might as well claim I'd punched the moon. Xiaohu jumped in immediately. It's true. I was there. I saw everything with my own eyes. His voice cracked with sincerity, which unfortunately made him sound even less credible. A teenager vouching for another teenager about impossible war stories. Not exactly a compelling witness. Chief Li waved him off like shooing a fly. Everyone says Turks fight like starving wolves. You're a child. How many wolves could you possibly kill? Ridiculous. Before I could respond, Uncle Shi Kai's father, the head hunter, the man who organized tiger-killing expeditions, cut in with a different question entirely. Shun Lai, my son says you can draw a one-stone bow and shoot ambidextrously. Is that true, smart man? He understood something the others didn't. Kill counts can be exaggerated. Stories can be inflated. But a bow doesn't lie. Either you can pull it or you can't. Either you hit the target or you miss. No amount of talking changes physical reality. Everyone in the village trusted Shi Kai's word. The boy was famously honest and his archery reputation was untouchable. But even Shi Kai's account of my battlefield performance sounded like fairy tales to these grizzled mountain men. They needed proof they could see with their own eyes. I nodded. One stone was actually laughable for me now. I could pull 2 stone, but sure, let's start there. Uncle Shi turned to his son. Bring our training bow. Shi Kai practically teleported out the door. Xiaohu and I exchanged a knowing look. This was actually perfect. I couldn't prove my kill count, obviously. I didn't exactly bring 200 Turk heads in a sack as souvenirs. But shooting? That I could demonstrate right here, right now, and shut every doubter up permanently. The room went silent while we waited. Nobody spoke. The only sound was candle wax popping occasionally. The unspoken agreement was clear. If my archery was fake, this entire conversation was over. No point discussing anything else with a liar. Shi Kai burst back in, slightly out of breath, carrying a heavy training bow. Uncle Shi took it and handed it to me. This bow is made for building arm strength. Not quite 1 stone, but close. Heavy enough that most hunters struggle with it. Go ahead. I stood up, took the bow, and gave it an experimental pull. Internally, I almost laughed. 8 or 9 force. This bow was considered brutally heavy by village standards, the kind of thing that made grown hunters grunt and strain. For me, it felt like pulling a rubber band. I could snap this thing in half with a casual flex. My current strength could handle twice this draw weight without breaking a sweat. Well, what are you waiting for? Chief Li barked impatiently. It's too light, I murmured. What? The old man cupped his ear. I said it's too light. Before anyone could process that absurd statement, I lifted the bow with one arm and channeled just a touch of qi. Not enough to reveal my martial artist status overtly, just enough to make an impression. My back muscles swelled. My arms expanded. My simple cloth shirt stretched so tight it looked ready to explode off my body like wrapping paper on a Christmas present that was secretly a refrigerator. 1 second I was a farm boy sitting politely in a chair. The next I was a war god holding a weapon that looked like a children's toy in my massive hands. The transformation was so dramatic that the candlelight itself started flickering from the pressure radiating off my body. Every elder in the room went pale. Uncle Shi's back physically separated from his chair. Chief Li's mouth opened, but absolutely nothing came out. The atmospheric pressure from my aura was literally pushing the air out of his lungs. Shi Kai and Xiaohu sat there completely unbothered. They'd seen this show 100 times. Xiaohu was actually biting his leg to keep from laughing at the elder's reactions. Was I overdoing it? Absolutely. I could have drawn this bow with my pinky finger while yawning. But I needed these people to believe. So I gave them a full theatrical performance. Drew the string back into a perfect crescent moon. The bow groaned and vibrated like it was screaming for mercy. The sound filled the tiny room and made everyone's teeth vibrate. Everyone was terrified the bowstring would snap and whip someone's face off. Chief Li started raising his hand to stop me, but couldn't form words. His mouth was doing the fish thing. Open, close, open, close, no sound. I held the full draw for 3 dramatic seconds, then released the tension with the gentleness of laying a sleeping baby in a crib. Smooth. Controlled. The aura vanished. Everyone gasped for air like they'd been underwater. Then I switched to my other hand and started raising the bow again. Okay, stop. That's enough. Chief Li nearly fell out of his chair waving his arms. His dignity was hanging by a thread, and another demonstration might actually kill someone via heart attack. Oh, okay. I put the bow down casually. Xiaohu and Shi Kai were physically trembling from suppressed laughter, pinching their own thighs so hard they'd have bruises tomorrow. Uncle Shi stared at me with an expression I'd never seen on a grown man's face before. This was a lifelong archer, a master hunter who'd spent decades perfecting his craft. He'd heard from his own son that my archery surpassed Shi Kai's, and he'd been skeptical. Now, without me firing a single arrow, just from watching me hold the bow, he knew the truth. His son was extraordinary, but I was something else entirely. Something he couldn't even classify. The way I handled that bow wasn't just skill, it was art approaching the divine. The ancient masters called it the way of the arrow, a level most archers couldn't touch in 10 lifetimes. And he'd just watched a teenage orphan display it in a cramped living room while trying not to destroy the furniture. Nobody doubted my archery anymore. That question was permanently, violently, theatrically settled. But I could see the new question forming behind every pair of wide eyes in that room. How? How did the village's scrawniest kid become this? Fortunately, that was a question I never had to answer. After my little bow demonstration nearly gave everyone a cardiac event, I smoothly pivoted to explaining our actual mission. It took some gentle talking, but Chief Li finally understood the situation. We weren't government thugs dragging people away in chains. We were border soldiers recruiting volunteers to defend Yunzhou, and by extension, everyone's homes. Well then, our village boys are really making something of themselves, fighting on the front lines. Chief Li beamed, his whole personality doing a complete 180 from the man who'd nearly caned me that afternoon. The grumpy gatekeeper transformed into a proud grandpa right before our eyes. I couldn't tell if the redness in his face was embarrassment for misjudging us or genuine pride. Probably both. Uncle Shi got serious fast. What's the real situation at Yunzhou? How long can the garrison hold? The 3 of us deflated simultaneously. I gave them the honest truth. Tens of thousands of Turks at the gates, fewer than 7,000 defenders remaining, no reinforcements in sight. If the Turks resumed their assault, Yunzhou would fall within 3 days. Every elder in the room sucked air through their teeth like they'd touched a hot stove. These people had lived their entire lives near the border. They'd heard the horror stories about Turk brutality. Parents literally used Turks as boogeymen to scare crying babies into silence. Stop crying, or the Turks' soldiers will come get you. That kind of deep, generational terror doesn't need explanation. Chief Li sighed heavily. If Yunzhou falls, every civilian in the region is finished. Not just the region, I thought. Half the empire would burn under Turk hooves. Xiaohu jumped in with surprising maturity. Chief Li, That's exactly why we're here. If Yunzhou disappears, our tiny village has zero chance of protecting itself. Normally, a kid his age wouldn't be allowed in a council meeting, let alone permitted to speak. But Xiaohu was officially a military officer now, commanding dozens of soldiers. The elders couldn't dismiss him as just a child anymore, even if he still occasionally stuck his tongue out at people. Chief Li's face crumpled with genuine anguish. I understand the big picture, boy. Eggs can't survive when the nest falls. But we simply cannot spare the people right now. I already knew what he was going to say next. It's the bandits, isn't it? He nodded grimly. Black Cloud Stronghold. Several hundred bandits on the mountain. They hit Niu family village 2 days ago. Yesterday they crashed a wedding at Li family settlement, robbed the guests, kidnapped people, stole everything. Tomorrow or the next day, they're coming here, and there it was. The real problem. I could talk about patriotism and defending the empire until my face turned blue, but these villagers had bandits literally knocking on their door this week, asking them to send their men away to fight Turks while raiders were about to attack their families was like asking someone to fix the roof while the house was actively on fire. No sane person would leave. And even if I forced them, soldiers worried sick about their families back home make terrible fighters. That's not the kind of army I wanted. The ancient wisdom applied perfectly here. Secure the home front before fighting the foreign enemy. I started asking tactical questions. How many bandits total? How many come on raids? How many village militia can we field? Scholar Liu, the village's resident intellectual, an old man who'd failed the civil service exam multiple times but remained the smartest person in any room, answered before Chief Li could even open his mouth. Black Cloud Stronghold has roughly 500 men. They send about 100 on each raid. Our village has under 200 households. One fighting man per household gives us approximately 140 militia. Uncle Sure added the critical detail. 40 of those households are hunters. We can field 40 archers. I ran the numbers. 40 archers plus 100 armed villagers. For a tiny mountain village that had already been raided for conscripts multiple times, that was actually impressive. The government's conscription efficiency was apparently garbage. If every village across Yunzhou had contributed properly, the garrison would never have gotten this desperate. I asked for a map. Scholar Liu produced one from his sleeve like a magician pulling a rabbit from a hat. Everyone crowded around the table as he unrolled it. The geography was straightforward. Black Cloud Stronghold sat north of the village. The northern approach was gentle, sloping terrain, perfect for mounted riders to charge straight at us. Scholar Liu explained that the bandits had horses stolen from surrounding villages. That changed everything. Mounted bandits had speed and mobility that our footbound villagers couldn't match. They could probe the north gate, and if it was heavily defended, simply ride around to the weaker south gate in minutes. This was the headache that had been keeping Chief Li awake at night. 140 militia sounded decent on paper, but split between 2 gates against mobile cavalry, the numbers became razor thin. Concentrate everyone at the north gate, and the south gets steamrolled. Split forces equally, and both gates become vulnerable. The village had only one competent commander, Uncle Sure, so whichever gate he defended would hold, and whichever gate he didn't would crumble. But now there were 2 of us. Uncle Sure takes one gate, I take the other. Problem solved. The elders were practically glowing with relief at this realization. Uncle Sure asked the obvious question. The north gate is the most dangerous approach. You should take it. How many men do you need there? I thought about it for exactly 2 seconds. None. I'll take the north gate alone. The room went silent. Not the impressed silence from my bow demonstration. Not the respectful silence when Chief Li entered the room. This was the, did he just say something incredibly stupid, silence. The kind where everyone's brain simultaneously crashes and needs to reboot. Chief Li stared at me. Uncle Sure stared at me. Scholar Liu stared at me. The other elders stared at me. Even Xiaohu and Sure Kai stared at me, although their stares contained significantly less doubt and significantly more, oh boy, here he goes again, one man, against 100 mounted bandits, at an open gate on flat terrain. I said just me. One person. North gate. The silence continued for what felt like a geological era. Someone's mouth was hanging open so wide a bird could have nested in it. Look, I understood their confusion. From their perspective, this sounded like suicide with extra steps. But they hadn't seen what I could do on the walls of Yunzhou. They hadn't watched me delete hundreds of Turk soldiers. They hadn't seen me duel a peak-level martial artist and walk away. 100 bandits on horses? That wasn't a threat. That was target practice. Everyone stared at me like I'd announced I was going to fight the bandits using interpretive dance. One man, Northgate, alone. The silence was so thick you could spread it on Xiaohu's sister's flatbread. Xiaohu broke first. Shouldn't lie, bro. Even the best archer needs backup. One hero still needs 3 helpers. Let me guard the North Gate with you. I shook my head. I have other plans for you and Sher Kai. I gave him the look, the one that says, I'm your commanding officer, sit down. He swallowed his protest like bitter medicine. I started laying out my actual battle plan, and honestly, I was kind of enjoying watching the confusion spread across the room like a slow-moving fog. Uncle Sher, take all 40 archers to the South Gate, plus 20 militia. Everyone blinked. If North Gate had just me and South Gate had only 60 people, where was everyone else going? Sher Kai, take 40 militia and patrol the village walls. Anyone climbs over, kill them on sight. Sher Kai nodded without a single question. That man was a rock. A beautiful, reliable, emotionally stable rock. Xiaohu was practically vibrating out of his skin. What about me? The kid had been watching assignments get handed out like candy at a festival, and his name hadn't been called yet. He looked like a puppy watching everyone else get treats. I made him wait an extra 3 seconds, just because it was funny. Then I dropped the bomb. Xiaohu, you take 50 militia plus our 5 border soldiers and hide outside the village. Outside? His brain visibly short-circuited. Every tactical instinct screamed that during a defense, you put people inside the thing you're defending. Putting troops outside was like locking your guard dog in the neighbor's yard during a robbery. Go cut down trees tonight. As many as possible, I continued. Trees? What do trees have to do with bandits? Xiaohu's confusion had reached a level where his face looked like a crumpled piece of paper. Tomorrow, after the bandits attack and start retreating, block the road behind them with the fallen trees. Then ambush them from their escape route. I watched the gears turn in Xiaohu's head. Slowly, painfully, like a rusty clock trying to remember how time works. His eyebrows scrunched, released, scrunched again, and then, click. His eyes exploded open like 2 tiny suns. The horses. You want me to steal their horses? There it is. The genius cavalry commander brain finally woke up from its nap. I nodded approvingly. You're not completely hopeless after all. See, the plan was layered. Step 1. I hold the North Gate alone and make the bandits think we're weak everywhere else. Step 2. Uncle Sher crushes anyone who tries the South Gate. Step 3. Sher Kai's patrol team kills any sneaky climbers. Step 4. The beautiful part. Xiaohu's squad blocks the bandits' retreat route with felled trees, trapping them between the village and the roadblock. Cut off from their horses, the surviving bandits become sitting ducks. We kill them, take the horses, and suddenly we have cavalry. When I finished explaining the complete strategy, the room split perfectly down the middle. Old guys versus young guys. Conservative versus aggressive. Fear versus fury. Chief Li immediately objected. Too risky. If we just defend the village and make them leave empty-handed, they'll learn their lesson. Why provoke them further? If we kill 100 bandits and steal their horses, the remaining 400 will come for revenge. Then we kill all of them. Sure, Kai said, with the casual certainty of someone ordering lunch. Uncle Sher snapped at his son for being reckless, but I could see Sher Kai's jaw set with stubborn defiance. The apple and the tree were having a disagreement, but the apple wasn't backing down. I backed Sher Kai up. He's right. There's no such thing as guarding against thieves forever. As long as Black Cloud's stronghold exists, this village will never have peace. They'll come back. Again and again. Each time bolder. Each time taking more. Scholar Lu, the failed exam taker who was somehow the smartest person present, sighed and started doing math out loud. Our village fields 140 fighters. If we recruit Li Family Settlement and Nyo Family Village, who've already been raided, maybe we get 200 more. After tomorrow, if we kill 100 bandits, they still have 400. That gives us roughly 300 versus 400. He shook his head. Still outnumbered. Meanwhile, Sher Kai and Xiaohu were doing my recruiting speech better than I ever could. Sher Kai launched into a furious monologue about dignity and manhood. These bandits seized our mountain. Hunters can't hunt without their permission. We can't even leave the village without checking if bandits are watching the road. Men don't live like dogs begging for scraps from their masters. Not to be outdone, Xiaohu delivered what might be the greatest battle cry in village council history. My uncle can tolerate this, but my auntie cannot. These bandits have been sitting on our heads for too long, and we're done. The idiom he was trying to use was, what's tolerable and what's not, but he completely butchered it into something about relatives. Didn't matter. The passion was perfect. The elders were visibly cracking. I crossed my arms and shut up. These two hotheads were doing my job for me with twice the enthusiasm and zero diplomatic filtering. Sometimes the best leadership is knowing when to step back and let your crazy subordinates scream at old people until the old people agree. Chief Li, Uncle Shi, and Scholar Lu exchanged heavy glances. This conversation had evolved way beyond what anyone anticipated when we sat down. It started as, how do we survive a bandit raid, and somehow became, how do we wipe out an entire bandit fortress? Defense became annihilation. Annihilation became a full siege campaign. The scope had ballooned from protecting one village to liberating an entire county. Scholar Lu's math still bothered him, though. 300 farmers against 400 bandits. Even with my abilities, even with Qingxi's legendary archers, even with stolen horses, the numbers weren't comfortable. He was right to worry. The math was tight. But math doesn't account for a guy with a cheat system, a teenage cavalry prodigy, and a village full of hunters who kill bears for weekend entertainment. I just needed these old men to say yes. Scholar Lu kept hammering the numbers like a broken calculator. 300 versus 400. Still outnumbered. This man had clearly never been in an actual fight. If wars were won by counting heads, the Turks would already own Yunzhou and everything south of it. I kept my irritation buried deep and said calmly, numbers aren't everything. Strategy, terrain, timing. Sun Tzu literally wrote a whole book about this. We can compensate. Scholar Lu was a brilliant accountant, but a terrible general. He could tell you exactly how many chickens every household owned, but couldn't figure out how to deploy 12 men on a hill. Once I reminded him that actual warfare existed beyond arithmetic, he quietly backed down. That left Uncle Shi as the final holdout. Chief Li was wavering. Scholar Lu was silenced. The whole decision rested on one man. I went for the kill shot. Uncle Shi, those bandits have been squatting on your mountain for years. Your hunters can't hunt. Your village can't breathe. How long since you've been able to set foot in those forests without worrying about running into thugs? Direct hit. I watched the pain flash across his face. Qingxi village was paradise because of its mountain. Rich forests, endless game, wood for building, herbs for medicine. The mountain was literally the village's lifeline. And these bandit parasites had choked it shut. Shirkai piled on beautifully. Dad, our hunting bows are gathering dust. A few more years of this, and Qingxi won't have any hunters left. Our entire identity will just disappear. Uncle Shi looked at his son, young, fierce, burning with the same reckless courage he'd had 20 years ago. Somewhere deep inside this careful, responsible middle-aged man, a younger version was screaming to be let out. The hot-blooded hunter who never backed down from wolves or bears or anything else the mountain threw at him. He took one enormous breath. His massive palm came down on the table like a judge's gavel. We do it Shunlai's way. Boom. Decision made. Meeting adjourned. Let's go kill some bandits. Next morning, the village transformed into a war camp. Men sharpened weapons and strung bows, while women cooked breakfast and packed rations. The energy was electric. Nervous, yes, but also excited. These people had been living under bandit oppression for years, and today they were finally hitting back. I stood on the North Gate platform, studying the terrain one final time. The gentle slope beyond the wall stretched toward the mountain, wide and open. Perfect charging ground for mounted bandits. Perfect killing ground for me. Xiaohu appeared with raccoon-level dark circles under his eyes, but the energy of someone who'd mainlined 17 cups of coffee. He'd been up all night cutting down trees with his squad. All done, Shunlai bro. Trees are hidden in the forest along the retreat road. Ready to block on your signal. Good. Now take your militia outside and hide. Don't move until the bandits retreat. And whatever happens, do not let a single horse escape. They won't even get a donkey past me. He grabbed his men and vanished through the gate like an enthusiastic ghost. But not before his sister caught him. Wang Qiuyue came running with a bundle of fresh steamed cornbread, still hot from the kitchen. Now, I'd heard Qingxi village raised beautiful people, But this girl was something else entirely. Zero makeup, natural beauty, the kind of face that makes village boys walk into walls. Several militia men nearby went temporarily brain dead just from glancing at her. "Be careful, little tiger. Swords don't have eyes," she pleaded. "Sis, relax. Turk warriors can barely handle me. You think some mountain hobos are going to be a problem?" Xiaohu rolled his eyes with the confidence of a kid who genuinely fought in a major battle and survived. She gave up trying to worry him, shook her head, and handed over the food. Xiaohu stuffed 2 cornbreads into my hands before charging off with his squad. I stood on the platform eating breakfast, watching his group disappear into the tree line. Chiyue glanced up at me from below, seemed like she wanted to say something, then lost her nerve and hurried home. Noted. Filed away. Not the time. Uncle Shi and Shi Kai arrived shortly after with their respective units. I gave final instructions, they nodded, and everyone dispersed to their positions. Uncle Shi headed to the south gate with 40 archers and 20 militia. Shi Kai took his 40-man patrol team to cover the walls. Smooth, efficient, professional. And then the north gate was empty. Just me. And the Zhang twins, Liao and Yuan, who the village had insisted on leaving here as my support team, because apparently nobody trusted me to defend an entire gate alone. Truthfully, they were about as useful as decorative houseplants in a hurricane. But they could carry messages and keep me company, so whatever. The problem with company was that these two were walking question factories. Shenlai bro, is it true Turks are born from wolves and covered in fur? Shenlai bro, do they really have fangs and bite people? I couldn't help laughing. Turks are normal humans. 2 eyes, 1 nose. They eat food when hungry and scream when you stab them. Just like us. The twins giggled like this was the funniest thing they'd ever heard. Zero battle tension. Absolutely none. Just 2 village boys excited to be hanging out with the cool older kid. Is Yunzhou fun? We've never been. What's a martial artist? Xiaohu said you're one. What's it like? Shenlai bro, can you teach us? Shenlai bro, Shenlai bro. For one brief, desperate moment, I genuinely wished the bandits would just attack already so these 2 would stop talking. Shenlai bro, Shu. Both mouths clamped shut. They followed my gaze to the hilltop beyond the gate. A black dot appeared on the ridge. Then another. Then 5 more. Then 20. Then the entire hilltop was covered in dark shapes, spilling over the crest like ink spreading across paper. They poured downhill. Horses, dozens of them. Hooves thundering, dust exploding into the air, the sound rolling toward us like approaching thunder. The Zhang twins' pupils shrank to pinpoints. Their silly grins evaporated instantly, replaced by raw, primal fear. The bandits were here, and I was smiling. The bandits came pouring over the hilltop like a dirty avalanche. Horses galloping, dust flying, idiots whooping and hollering, whipping their horses like they were racing to a sale at the robbery store. They looked so excited you'd think Qingxi village was handing out free gold and girlfriends at the front gate. I sent the Zhang twins off as messengers, one to Uncle Shi at the south gate, one to Shi Kai on patrol, and started counting heads from behind the wall. 70, 80, 120, 170, 170 bandits total. About 100 on horseback, the rest jogging behind, eating their dust. More than the intel suggested. Didn't matter. What did matter? 100 horses. My eyes practically turned into heart shapes. Those beautiful animals were about to change owners. They just didn't know it yet. The mounted bandits arrived first, thundering up to the village perimeter. The ground shook so hard that the women and children hiding in their houses started trembling along with the walls. But I noticed something delicious. The bandits stopped at arrow range. They knew Qingxi had good hunters and were scared of catching a surprise arrow to the face. Their second-in-command, some loud guy with a fancy axe and a janky suit of homemade armor, rode up front and surveyed the completely empty north wall. "Well, this is suspicious," one of his lackeys muttered. "Not a single person up there." The second-in-command burst out laughing. "If this were MY village, I'd have 50 archers hidden on that wall ready to turn anyone who got close into Swiss cheese. But these peasants clearly pissed their pants the second they heard our horses." His goons started howling and screeching like a pack of caffeinated monkeys. Real classy bunch. He sent 3 guys to climb the wall and open the gate from inside. Their scout, a weasel-faced little rat called Six, sprinted to the wall, hopped the trench, spat on his palms for grip, and scrambled up like a cockroach climbing a drain pipe. His hands grabbed the top of the wall. He was about to pull himself over. Then my face popped up right in front of his. "Hi there," I waved cheerfully. The look on his face was absolutely priceless. Pure horror. Cartoon-level shock. His whole body seized up, his fingers released the wall, and he dropped straight down into the spiked trench below with a scream and an extremely unpleasant crunching sound. Self-service shish kebab. His two buddies saw their friend get skewered by his own cowardice and immediately spun around to flee. I glanced at the Zhang twins and nodded. They knocked arrows, aimed, and, thwack thwack, dropped both runners cleanly. Not bad for a couple of village boys who'd been asking me if Turks had fangs 10 minutes ago. Those little. The second-in-command spat curses. 3 guys dead in 3 seconds, and they hadn't even gotten inside yet. But now they could see us on the wall. 3 people. Just 3. The bandits' confusion was palpable. 3 guys defending an entire wall. Was this an ambush or a joke? I could practically read the second-in-command's thoughts bouncing between, "It's a trap," and "These morons are bluffing." He sent a dozen more scouts forward, shields raised, creeping toward the wall in a nervous little formation like armored turtles. They got close. Closer. Almost to the base of the wall. Then I opened the gate. Just. Raised it. Wide open. "Welcome, Madout. Come on in, boys." The scouts froze mid-step. Their brains collectively blue-screened. "The gate is open? Do we go inside? Is this a trap?" They turned around and looked at their boss with the universal expression of, "What do we do now?" The second-in-command made his decision. Empty fortress strategy? These farmers think they can pull a Zhuge Liang on me? I've read military books. No, you haven't, buddy. And even if you had, you read them wrong. Because the whole point of the empty fortress strategy is that you can never be sure if it's real or fake. And you just decided it was fake. Wrong answer. He ordered the full charge. Every mounted bandit surged forward, racing toward the open gate like dogs chasing a thrown steak. They couldn't wait to get inside and start looting. The Zhang twins were sweating bullets beside me. If the bandits actually got through, the village was exposed. They kept shooting me panicked looks. I just held up my hand. Wait. 30 steps. 20 steps. The horses were so close the wall was vibrating from the hoofbeats. I could smell the animals and the unwashed humans riding them. Now, I rose from behind the wall, oxhorn bow in hand, and faced the incoming cavalry stampede. Triple shot. 3 arrows per volley. Fire rate so fast the arrows formed a continuous line in the air like a deadly dotted highway stripe. Within a few breaths, I'd launched dozens of arrows into the charging mass of bandits. The screaming started immediately. OWWW. HHH. What the F? Bandits flew off their horses like they'd hit invisible clotheslines. The oxhorn bow's power at this range was devastating. Each arrow hit with enough force to physically launch a grown man off a galloping horse. Riders slammed into the dirt, got trampled by the horses behind them, rolled across the ground in clouds of dust and regret. The Zhang twins peeked over the wall. All they could hear was the nonstop twang of my bowstring and the chorus of agony from outside. Without seeing the carnage, you'd swear there were 50 archers up here. Cover the gate. Kill anyone who slips through, I ordered between shots, not even pausing my rhythm. Within seconds, the first 15 riders were all on the ground, dead or wishing they were. Their riderless horses milled around in confusion, blocking the path of the bandits behind them. My archery proficiency ticked up. 393, 394. Pathetically slow. These bandits were worth almost nothing in experience. Like grinding level 1 slimes when you're already max level. But I wasn't here for the XP. I was counting horses. 9 riderless horses wandering around. 10, 15. Every dead bandit was a free horse. And every horse brought Xiaohu one step closer to becoming the cavalry commander he was born to be. I kept shooting. The horse count kept climbing. Come on, boys. Keep charging. Every one of you is a generous donation to the Shun Lai Equestrian Foundation. My arrows deleted the first 15 riders so fast that the only witnesses were already dead. The guys behind them didn't even see what happened. 1 second their buddies were galloping forward. The next second those buddies were doing involuntary dismounts at lethal velocity. Horses without riders wandering around confused. Bodies scattered across the dirt like discarded laundry. Ambush. Someone finally screamed, which was technically correct but hilariously late. The surviving bandits yanked their reins to retreat, but the ones behind them hadn't gotten the memo yet and were still charging forward. The two groups slammed into each other like a traffic accident made of horses and stupidity. Everyone got tangled up in a massive, cursing, panicking knot of flesh and hooves. Perfect target. I kept firing. 20 more bandits dropped before the pile untangled itself. By the time they finally sorted out which direction away was, they'd left 30-something corpses and a beautiful collection of riderless horses milling around outside my gate. The second-in-command retreated to safe distance, visibly bleeding from the ego. He'd lost a third of his forces without setting foot inside the village. Going home empty-handed meant losing his position, maybe his head. So naturally, he made the dumbest possible decision. Their archers are all on this side. Let's go around to the other gate. Off they galloped, 100-something angry bandits racing around the village toward the south gate, completely convinced they'd found the undefended back door. Zhang Liao clutched his chest beside me. Shenlai bro, when you opened that gate earlier, I nearly died of fear. Zhang Yuan was already eyeing the abandoned horses hungrily, asking if we should grab them. I told him to wait. Could be stragglers hiding outside. No point dying for a horse. Meanwhile, at the south gate, Uncle Sure was crouched behind the wall with 40 archers, breathing so quietly you'd think they were all meditating. The bandits came screaming around the corner, saw the apparently empty south wall, and the second-in-command's remaining brain cell fired one last spark of false confidence. Charge! Before they regroup, bandits whipped their horses into a frenzy. Dozens of riders flew toward the south gate, fury and desperation powering every stride. They wanted blood. They wanted revenge for their dead brothers. They wanted to destroy something, anything, to salvage their bruised pride. Uncle Sure held his fist up. Wait, wait. Let them get close. Closer, closer. Fire. 40 hunting bows sang simultaneously. The first volley dropped 15 riders instantly. The second volley caught the confused survivors trying to process why the empty wall had suddenly sprouted an army of archers. The second-in-command literally lost his helmet. It flew off his head as he screamed profanity at the sky. How? Where do these archers keep coming from? I'll tell you where, buddy. From the village famous across the entire region for producing the best hunters in Yunzhou. You tried to rob the archery village. This is like trying to pickpocket a police convention. The surviving bandits pushed through the arrow storm and reached the wall, trying to climb over. Bad move. Uncle Sure had 20 militia waiting at the top with long spears and pitchforks. Every bandit who grabbed the wall got stabbed, poked, or launched backward into the spiked trenches below. Bodies piled up at the base. 40 more dead. 2 attacks, 70 casualties total. The bandits' original 170-man force was getting carved up like festival pork. A lackey begged the second-in-command to retreat. Boss, these guys are serious. Let's just go. But the second-in-command had lost all rational thought. Pride had completely replaced his brain. He couldn't go home like this. He'd rather die than face the humiliation. Everyone off your horses. Climb the side walls. The remaining 100 bandits dismounted and swarmed toward a section of wall between the two gates. The section Sure Kai was patrolling with 40 village militia. A few agile bandits scrambled up the wall. Nobody stopped them. They must have thought they'd finally found the weak spot. They dropped down inside the wall and immediately got turned into kebabs by Sure Kai's waiting spearmen. But more kept coming. Sure Kai only had 40 guys, and 100 bandits represented serious numerical pressure. The wall section got overwhelmed. Bandits started flooding in. Sure Kai didn't flinch. Covered in bandit blood, steel sword flashing, he cut down attacker after attacker while his militia fought desperately around him. Come on, he roared at the encircling bandits, and his sheer psychotic energy actually made several of them hesitate. But numbers were numbers, and the circle was shrinking. He'd already sent a runner to me. I grabbed Uncle Sure and his archers from the south gate, and we sprinted to the breach. We arrived just as things were getting critical. Fire, I commanded. 40 arrows turned the bandits surrounding Sure Kai into a very brief modern art installation. The encirclement shattered. You heard. Uncle Sure rushed to his blood-soaked son. Sure Kai grinned through the red mask coating his face. Relax, Dad. None of this is mine. Inside the walls, the cheering started. But outside, the surviving few dozen bandits heard everything and knew it was over. The second-in-command finally swallowed his pride and ordered retreat. "I'll be back to flatten this place," he screamed, rallying his remaining horsemen and bolting down the road they'd come from. They galloped about 200 meters before discovering that the road was completely blocked by massive fallen trees stacked across the path, like nature's own barricade. Impossible to ride through. Impossible to move quickly. The second-in-command's eyes went wide. Those trees weren't there this morning. "It's a trap. Hey, grandchildren. Your grandpa's been waiting." Xiaohu exploded out of the forest on both sides with 50 militia and 5 border soldiers, screaming like a tiny demon who'd just been told Christmas came early. The look on the second-in-command's face at that exact moment was something I'd pay actual money to see painted and framed on my wall. Trapped between the village behind them and a tree-blocked ambush ahead, the remaining bandits had nowhere to run, nowhere to hide, and absolutely no idea how a farming village had just executed a perfect military encirclement operation. My plan worked flawlessly. Every piece fell exactly where it needed to be. North Gate bought time. South Gate broke their charge. Wall Patrol crushed their infiltration, and Xiaohu's ambush sealed the coffin. Checkmate. Xiaohu erupted from the tree line like a small, angry volcano, 50 militia and 5 border veterans screaming behind him. The sound alone nearly gave the remaining bandits heart attacks. He personally led the charge with our 5 Yunzhou veterans, carving through the trapped bandits like a hot knife through terrified butter. 7 or 8 dropped in the first few seconds. These bandits were already broken. They'd charged in like conquering heroes, gotten slaughtered at the North Gate, massacred at the South Gate, butchered trying to climb the walls, and now they'd run straight into an ambush on their own escape route. Their swagger had been surgically removed and replaced with pure animal panic. They tried to run, but the road was blocked by Xiaohu's beautiful wall of felled trees. Horses couldn't jump it. Riders couldn't push through it. The only option was to abandon their horses, scramble over the logs on foot, and pray. Most didn't even make it that far. The village militia swarmed them like angry bees defending a hive. A spear through the back is remarkably effective at ending someone's escape plans. "Not one gets away," Xiaohu bellowed, absolutely covered in blood, looking like a demon child at the world's worst birthday party. Some bandits managed to ditch their horses and disappear into the forest. Maybe 20 slipped through, but the rest? Done. Finished. Career over. Permanently retired from the banditry industry. The second-in-command died somewhere in the chaos. Xiaohu got him personally. I didn't see exactly how it happened, but knowing Xiaohu, it probably involved a lot of screaming and a disproportionate amount of violence for someone his size. By the time Shirkai and I arrived with reinforcements, it was basically cleanup duty. The trail was littered with bandit corpses, and Xiaohu was cheerfully herding confused horses into a group like a kid collecting stray puppies. Every horse got the same loving inspection. He'd pat its neck, check its legs, examine its teeth. The boy was in heaven. He spotted us approaching and flashed that blood-smeared grin of his. "Shenlai, bro? Shirkai? You guys are so slow." The 3 of us grabbed each other in a group hug right there among the bodies and the horses and the settling dust. 3 village boys, covered in other people's blood, laughing like idiots because we'd just pulled off a perfect military operation against a force that outnumbered us. It was disgusting and beautiful, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. The whole battle was over before anyone had time to eat the packed lunches the women had prepared that morning. 170 bandits walked in. About 20 crawled out. That's a 90% casualty rate, and I'm being generous with that 20 number because some of those escapees were probably bleeding out in a ditch somewhere. And the miracle? Not a single villager died. Some of Shirkai's wall patrol team got banged up during the encirclement, but 0 fatalities. Against 170 armed bandits. That's not a battle result. That's a statistical anomaly. I checked my stats while the village celebrated around me. Arrow proficiency barely moved. These bandits were worth almost nothing in combat experience. Like using a nuclear missile to swat mosquitoes. But my troop command proficiency had jumped to 158 out of 300. That was the real prize. Every villager who killed a bandit today fed experience directly into my leadership skill. Breakthrough to the next level was genuinely within reach. We rounded up the scattered horses. Final count, nearly 80. 80 horses. In a world where cavalry was the ultimate military advantage, where the Turks dominated precisely because they had horses and we didn't. I'd just acquired a small herd through the simple strategy of kill the riders, keep the rides. Xiaohu was personally overseeing their care, hauling hay from the village cow sheds, talking to each horse like it was a long-lost family member. His cavalry commander talent was practically glowing. Shirkai handled the grim logistics. 154 bodies counted. I'm having them burned. That meant roughly 16 escaped into the woods out of the original 170. Excellent ratio. He also reported finding several dozen silver tails on the bodies, stolen loot from previous raids. I told him to give it all to Chief Li for repairing the village walls. Investing stolen bandit money into anti-bandit infrastructure felt poetically appropriate. That night, the village council reconvened at Chief Li's house. The atmosphere was completely different from last time. No skepticism. No arguments. No old men questioning whether a teenager could lead a battle. Today's results had settled every debate permanently. But we weren't done. 20 bandits escaped back to Black Cloud Stronghold, which still housed roughly 400 more. When their boss heard what happened to his raiding party, he'd either come for revenge or fortify his mountain. Either scenario got worse with time. We needed to strike now, before they could prepare. Scholar Lu had already sent messengers to Niu family village and Li family settlement that afternoon, sharing news of our victory and inviting them to join forces for a final assault on the stronghold. Smart man. His timing was perfect. Nothing motivates oppressed people like hearing their oppressor just got his face kicked in. Chief Li volunteered to personally convince Li family settlement, since those were his relatives. Uncle Shi said the hunters from Niu family village were his old friends who'd been suffering under bandit tyranny for years and would likely jump at the chance for payback. Everything was falling into place. I emphasized speed. The bandits cannot be given time to prepare. And I still need to get back to Yunzhou. Every day I'm away is a day the garrison might need me. Everyone nodded. No more debates. No more conservative versus aggressive arguments. Today had proven my judgment was sound, my plans worked, and my abilities were real. While we were still discussing timelines, footsteps pounded outside. Multiple people approaching fast. Chief Li stood to greet the arriving delegations. Before anyone even appeared in the doorway, a voice boomed from the courtyard with zero diplomatic preamble. Let's kill those animals. A fired-up man burst into the room, practically vibrating with fury and excitement. Chief Li, Uncle Shi, however you want to do this, we're in. Apparently, the messengers didn't need to do much convincing. The other villages had been waiting for someone, anyone, to finally stand up and say, enough. They just needed proof it was possible. Our victory today was that proof. 3 villages, united, ready for war. Black Cloud Stronghold had no idea what was coming. The door burst open before Chief Li even finished standing up. A man with a voice like a foghorn stomped into the room, radiating so much aggressive energy, I almost checked him for chi. Nope, just a really loud, really angry farmer. How do we fight? Just tell me, and I'm there. This was Uncle Niu from Niu family village, a hunter who'd been friends with Uncle Shi for years. Built like an ox, appropriately named, and currently vibrating with enough rage to power a small city. Behind him came a representative from Li family settlement, a relative of Chief Li's. Both men had been waiting for this moment. Their villages had been robbed, humiliated, and terrorized. When they heard Qingxi village had killed over 100 bandits in a single day, they didn't need convincing. They needed directions. 154 dead, Uncle Niu's eyes nearly fell out of his skull. His village had fought desperately and barely killed 10 bandits. Li family settlement managed about the same. And here was Qingxi, casually announcing they'd erased a third of Black Cloud Stronghold's entire workforce in an afternoon. If you don't believe me, Chief Li said smugly, we've got 80 of their horses parked in the village right now. Go count them. Uncle Niu's brain short-circuited. Not only did Qingxi kill their men, they stole their horses. That's not defense. That's grand theft equine with extreme prejudice. Both villages pledged fighters immediately. Between them, roughly 200 militia. Combined with Qingxi's 140 untouched fighters, we had about 350 total. Against Black Cloud Stronghold's remaining 400. Still outnumbered. Scholar Lu's favorite complaint was still technically valid. But 350 angry, motivated villagers led by a martial artist with a cheat system versus 400 demoralized bandits who just lost their entire raiding party? I'd take those odds gladly. There was one small hiccup. When Uncle Nyo heard that a teenager would be commanding the entire operation instead of Uncle Sure, he exploded like a stepped-on landmine. Absolutely not. I'm not letting some kid who still smells like milk lead 3 villages into battle. Stone Brothers should command. Chief Li vouched for me. Uncle Sure vouched for me. Scholar Lu vouched for me. Uncle Nyo crossed his arms and refused to budge. The man was as stubborn as his namesake animal. Fine. Hard way it is. I took him to the courtyard and told him to try wrestling me. Simple challenge. Throw me down, and he wins the argument. Uncle Nyo was a mountain of a man. Probably the strongest pure human in 3 villages. He grabbed me with hands like iron vices and gave everything he had. He couldn't move me an inch. I threw him. He got up. I threw him again. He got up again. I threw him a 3rd time. He was getting dizzy. Then I activated my chi, picked him up like a sack of grain, and tossed him into the air. Caught him. Tossed him again. Caught him again. Like a human juggling ball. When I finally set him down, the man was pale, wobbly, and completely, utterly, permanently convinced. Every elder watching had just seen their first real martial artist demonstration. Decades of campfire stories about legendary warriors finally made real by a village orphan playing catch with a 200-pound hunter. Nobody questioned my authority again. The 3 villages hammered out final details that night. Uncle Nyo and his counterpart rushed home to prepare their militia. Meeting point, south side of Little Lord Mountain, dawn, 2 days from now. The next day dragged like a snail through honey. We'd been away from Yunzhou for 3 days already. Zero news from the front. Were the Turks still quiet? Had they attacked again? Was the garrison holding? Every hour of silence made my chest tighter. I needed to finish this bandit business and get back fast. Before dawn on attack day, Qingshi's roosters hadn't finished their first crow before every fighter was assembled at the village gate. Wives, mothers, and children came to say goodbye. Some of these men wouldn't be coming home. Everyone knew it. Nobody said it. The men hugged their families, shouldered their weapons, and lined up without complaint. Because they understood, let the bandits live today, and they'd bleed more tomorrow. This wasn't bravery. This was math. Painful, necessary, unavoidable math. Move out, I ordered. Move out. Xiaohu's voice shattered the morning silence like a brick through a window. The boy had a future in either military command or competitive screaming. I rode at the front with several dozen villagers who could sort of ride horses. Behind us, 100+ infantry marched on foot. We looked almost like a real army. Almost. Xiaohu was on a horse and losing his tiny mind with joy. He galloped to the front of the column, then to the back, then to the front again, then sideways for some reason. His riding technique could generously be described as enthusiastic but structurally unsound. He looked like a sack of excited potatoes bouncing on a very patient animal. Shirkai and I exchanged a look that said, "Future genius cavalry commander, everybody."